Hi, welcome to Marina's Movie Club. I'm Marina, and with me today is Claire. Say hi, Claire.
Hi.
And Ethan is not here, but that's okay. Anyways, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, everyone. Spooky season is upon us.
It is. This is, I'm considering today the official start of fall, and I'm so excited.
For sure.
Yeah.
Start of official horror season.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
Starting with our favorite horror movies of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, give me your favorite scary movie.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Oh no. I didn't mean to bring back bad memories.
No, I know. Loaded question. I want to do a little kind of background on my experience with horror.
Perfect.
Because that'll give a little bit more context for my trash taste when it comes to film in general, but specifically spooky movies, horror. But so when I was growing up in the suburbs of Iowa, good old Midwest,
beautiful.
We had a little neighborhood friend group, and there were a lot of like cool older girls who would like hang out, and we'd play neighborhood games, Ghosts in the Graveyard, stuff like that. And they were the ones that I distinctly remember watching my first scary movie. Like, I don't have a specific philosophy on philosophy on the age, like when it's okay to like start delving into more like adult like content in general. That sounds like inappropriate, but like more
like PG-13.
Yeah, like PG-13, more like just violent, like very suspenseful. But I wanted to like be with the cool girls. And so they would go in my neighbor's basement, who she had like 5 older brothers. So it was still like very old, like super, this was early 2000s, you know, and the name was Brock. Like, isn't that just the perfect like male
older brother?
Older brother Brock. But we would, I don't know, I'll have to check what year it came out, but I remember distinctly we watched a movie called The Messengers, and it had Kristen Stewart in it.
Oh,
so this
classic.
it was like, it was great. And then it had, I don't know who else was in it, but that was like the first scary movie I remember seeing. Besides, I remember in the background of like a family hangout, they had the first Harry Potter movie.
Oh,
and I thought that was scary because at the very end, you know, of the... So
yeah, when he takes like the turban off.
Right. So, but The Messengers, it was typical, like in a house, there's ghostly stuff going on. A new family moves into like this farmhouse, and then there's someone's already there, you know, kind of thing. So that, and it wasn't super gory. It was just kind of freaky. But I remember that was like, I loved being able to, I remember being afraid, but I really liked being able, it was like an exciting, like adrenaline burst, you know? So that's when I started being like, oh, this is a thing. Like one, I wanted to show off that I was brave enough. And then 2, it just was like, it's like why people go skydiving. Like, why do you want to watch something that like, has jump scares and makes your heart race and like you're sweating a little bit? So... So from that, I started watching, like, growing up, more horror movies because I just wanted to be, like, a cool girl, you know?
It's so fair.
And then, I don't know if I had, like, a favorite, but I remember just me reflecting back in general, and you know this, just, like, watching movies with me, I get kind of grossed out by a lot of body horror and gross, like, super gross scenes sometimes. So that's why... I was a huge fan of movies like, you know, Insidious or things like that, where they were a little bit like more, like it was creepy, but it wasn't disgusting or disturbing. So I would say if there's a spectrum of like Hereditary is on one side and like the Human Centipedes, like things like that, that's on one side. I want to be almost at the complete opposite side,
Yeah,
where it's more
same.
like cerebral, like
Yeah.
suspense.
It's like a psychological.
I love like a
thriller,
psychological
yeah.
thriller. So I'm trying to think, man, I'm trying to like come up with a good one, but I don't even know. But I did really like Insidious, or one of the, maybe Insidious Chapter 2, where they introduced humor as a part of it.
yeah.
So I really liked having that as an aspect of like a horror movie. So you'd
Yeah.
have like at least a balance. And then I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, I'm going to look up actually real quick, like best horror movies ever. Do you want to comment on like what your experience with like the horror genre is, like
Yeah.
your background? Is that okay
Yeah.
to talk about? Okay.
I don't even know what my first horror movie was. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I've always been, like, I grew up more, I don't know, I loved Harry Potter. I
Mhm.
loved, like, Roald Dahl, like, kind of,
Yes.
like, creepy, like,
Did you read
I don't know.
Goosebumps growing up?
no.
Okay.
But I read, like, all of
They had
well,
shows.
Nancy Drew, obviously.
Yeah, that
Love Nancy
counts. I think
Drew.
that counts. Just like there's something with like creepiness,
Yeah.
like growing up.
Yeah. Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
loved
for sure.
the
That's
Scooby-Doo
100%.
books,
Actually,
books and movies and
my
shows
favorite
were-
horror movie is Scooby-Doo, like when they have the vampire band, or like
Yes.
when they go to the island and there's like the women
Yeah.
who turn into like mountain
Ooh.
lions. Do you
Yeah.
remember?
Yeah.
Or something like that. That was my favorite
So
scary
good.
movie. Yeah, I feel like there's a difference between scary and like horror.
Yeah.
Horror sounds like so legitimate.
Yeah.
It's like when you're saying the difference of like when a novel, it's like it's a literary fiction versus like, oh, it's a drama, like romance book.
Yeah.
Literary gives it like an extra
It's
prestige.
elevated.
Yeah, it's elevated.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like horror is like moody and like
Yeah.
elevated, and
Yeah.
scary is like Scream.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the slashers.
I think that's what I can do better.
Mm-hmm.
I like, yeah, I feel like, I mean, I love Psycho. I love Jaws.
I've never seen it.
I love
Okay,
Badlands.
yes,
Like,
yes.
those are 3 of my favorite movies. And I feel like, yeah, it took me a while. Like, I never really gravitated towards,
Mm-hmm.
like, scary movies. But
Mm-hmm.
I saw those 3 kind of because of, all of them were because of film school. And I
Mhm.
loved all of them.
Mhm.
And then they have just kind of been my 3 favorite movies for like so long, which, side note, in our intro episode, I made a joke that Cars 1 through 3 are my favorite 3 movies. And I have had so many people ask me, like, I can't believe you love Cars that much. And I'm like, no, it like, okay, it's a good franchise, but they aren't my top 3 movies. They did not make it into my top 10,
Mm-hmm.
but they're still great movies. But I think Jaws, Badlands, and Psycho
Yep.
are probably my top 3 movies.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and I always thought it was funny because I'm like, that's not really the kind of movie that I like, but I think it is.
No, it's
It's like,
yeah. I think you're so validated. Yeah. Alien is number 1. I'm looking at the Rotten Tomatoes,
Alien
like
is
top,
so
like 200
good.
best, which I've never seen, but I know you
And
have.
that's like,
Refer to your episode.
yeah, please go listen to our episode. And also Alien Romulus, which we won't talk about today, but
Haven't
it's
seen it yet.
still into the included in
Yes.
the slasher summer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're including it in the slasher
Yeah.
summer. Okay, but just going through this list, so the top 5, we have number 2 is Let the Right One In. So I saw a remake version of this. It's like a vampire with Chloe Grace Moretz, like plays this vampire child who befriends this young boy. I think it was on Netflix. Oh, Aliens is number 3. Okay, so Aliens is just very, I feel like Aliens is its own genre.
I know.
Aliens.
It's funny to like think of it
Yeah.
as like a thriller, but I guess it is.
Jaws is number
Yeah.
4. Silence of the Lambs. I see, that's good. Oh, I really did like, I remember distinctly watching The Shining.
Yeah.
It was on the TV when I was doing my math homework, like rerunning, and I was just
That's like
enraptured.
just awful on top of awful.
Yeah, I know. It was just a horrible experience, but I think I was just like any distraction from like
From math.
from my textbook.
Anything is better than
Johnny has 7 axes. And he says red rum. Psycho's on here too. I'm going
Oh,
down the
yes.
list. Okay, King Kong. A Quiet Place.
math.
whatever. Halloween. That's getting into slasher summer.
Yeah.
I feel yeah.
Yeah. Not slasher summer of 2024, but still slasher summer.
Rosemary's Baby. Have you seen Rosemary's
Oh, I
Baby?
haven't. I want to do an episode on that.
I feel like that would be, it kind of seems like something you would like. I
Yeah,
haven't
they're
seen
coming
it.
out with the prequel, I think, to it.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be really interesting
Okay.
to see that.
Yeah, The Babadook I haven't seen. Talk to Me
yeah.
was a more recent one. I don't know. I was like, in the era, like, what were your growing up? There's so many that I Nosferatu. Megan with the robot doll thing.
No, thank you. I cannot do dolls.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I've never
Annabelle.
tried. I've never tried to watch a doll movie, but I can't do it.
I did really like, I think it was a remake with, it's not Dakota Fanning, Dakota
Elephant? Oh.
Johnson.
Oh, from, yeah.
And she was in a remake with Mia Goth, like Suspiria. And it's just like this really weird, I didn't like the ending because it got a little bit into like, there's some weird body horror crap in that too, but it was just really cool. What's like a witchy movie? I'm like, if there's like a witchy adjacent movie, that was probably, I did really like the story arc of The Cabin in the Woods.
I haven't seen that. Is that the one with Jennifer Lawrence?
No, that one is, I know what you're talking about. But that was right after Hunger Games. She did a horror movie. Yeah. And I watched it in theaters because I was like, ooh, I want to. I don't know. Does Twilight count as horror? Those are my favorite horror movies. And then there's Red Riding Hood with Amanda Seyfried.
Yeah.
That's really good.
What? Okay.
Sorry.
For Friday the 13th nighttime, what movie we're going to watch? What's your like candidate?
Okay. I will say not Friday the 13th. It's a little on the nose.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think there's something appealing about Scream, like the slasher. It's like the slasher summer. Like you have typical, it's like the Halloween, Friday the 13th, Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Those kind of types of movies where, I don't know, they feel like youthful and it's like lively and adventurous, and you have like the friend group and then there's slowly people are getting murdered and who is it? There's mystery aspects of it. And I do think like if you're getting a group of friends together to watch something, it's like you want something that's a little bit more exciting. Like you can OMG at it, and it's not like, oh, let's all like really deeply think about and reflect on, so that's when I think the Scream type movies are appropriate. But and I just like the younger like actors that I'm familiar with. Like I remember Emma Roberts growing up. She was in one of the Screams. I like the fifth one. I don't know which one, but I was just like, ew, I've seen her when she was Nancy Drew in like the movie, one of the movies. So maybe one of the Screams, or like we were talking about the one with Jenna Ortega, just something like that. Where
I know I haven't seen that one and I want to see it.
I'm just like, I appreciate, I don't know, there's something about it. I'm like, you can remake it however many times and I'll still watch it. Yeah. So
it's just a nice, like, I mean, same thing with Alien. It's like such a templated thing, but it's still good. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Should we get into slasher summer?
Let's get into 2024 slasher summer, but also winter and spring.
Also the rest of the year.
Also before.
A little bit of 2008.
Yes.
Okay. So I thought we'd go, I kind of tried to list them out in order of like how much they'd be spoiled, if that makes sense. Like starting with the ones that are least spoily. So then if you want to stop the episode before you listen, because I think we'll spoil it a little bit, but I'm going to try to not like, that's true, you do. Yeah. I'm going to try to like maybe, well, no, I think we're just going to spoil them.
Okay. Well,
I think that's fine.
We could. Yeah.
We kind of just spoil everything.
It's up to you.
On this
I don't need to
podcast.
spoil things, but if you.
I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And we're going to do like we're doing like 5 films or something. So it's going to be such an overview that even if you haven't seen it and we spoil it, kind of like using air quotes, spoil, you can still watch it. I think it's not going to be like not fun to watch. So I thought we'd start with Lisa Frankenstein because I feel like there's not a huge like twist in that. It's just kind of like a fun movie. So, okay, Lisa Frankenstein, directed by Zelda Williams. This is her first feature film, which is like crazy. And then it stars Catherine Newton as Lisa, Cole Sprouse as what they call the creature. And I feel like he has a name and I want to figure out what his name is because he has a tombstone, which must have his name on it, but I don't know. And then Lisa Soberano as Taffy, who I feel like is maybe my favorite person in this.
She is she's a main character.
Yeah.
She's not a side character.
No. And then it's written by Diablo Cody, who wrote Juno and also Jennifer's Body, which I feel like I didn't know that I liked this writer so much, but I feel like
Jennifer's Body
great.
Is a vibe.
Yeah. Also,
and so is Juno, obviously.
I know. It's so good. I feel like it's crazy because they're all so far apart, but she had like such hit movies. Okay, also what I thought was interesting about, I think kind of like the inspiration for this movie is that Mary Shelley's mom, so Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein. Her mom, who was Mary Wollstonecraft, who is also a famous author.
And philosopher.
Yeah. I love her.
Yeah.
Look up her books. But she died when she gave birth to Mary Shelley. So Mary Shelley never had a mom, but she like would like go to her tombstone all the time, or grave or whatever. And her dad remarried when she was 4. So she had like a stepmom and a stepsister who she didn't like, and just would like go hang out with her mom at the cemetery, her dead mom. And so it's just like very similar to Lisa, which I thought was so interesting.
Is Mary Shelley.
Yeah.
if, if Mary Shelley was alive is it set in the 80s?
This is the 80s, yeah.
If it was the 80s, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, and also the best part is that she like loved her mom's grave so much that she brought her future husband to her mom's grave to tell him that she loved him. Isn't that so like, it's such a thing that Lisa would do.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
And
that
it just,
so cute.
I know.
And creepy. Well, Percy was like, all right.
Yeah.
I got this. Yeah. He's a poet. He's an artist in his own right.
I know.
Creatives just
they're just a little weird.
Unique. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts? Okay, so we just watched this last night. I had seen it before on a plane, like I talked about. I liked it way more watching it on an actual TV. But what were your thoughts? Because this was your first time.
Yeah, I feel like there's a way that you can describe it more intellectually, but I think you're right in the fact that it's a very simple. The idea is super simple, but it's just like it's like a character exploration.
Yeah.
So it's similar to, what do they call those movies? It's like the coming of age.
Yeah.
It's it's like a coming of age of like a teenage girl who Lisa's an outcast. She's a weirdo. We kind of start off and she's one thing, and then we see her kind of grow in confidence.
Yeah.
I mean, she is, spoiler, murdering people.
Yeah.
Ends up
I know, it's
turning
so funny
to
'cause
facilitate
the
murder.
like her confidence directly coincides with like how many people she's murdered.
Right. And
which
then
is like fair.
the hair gets bigger, the outfits get more iconic.
Gother, yeah.
And she just like becomes more confident in herself as the movie goes on. I will say I didn't like when we were watching this, I had eaten too much pizza and popcorn. So any like gross, like when when the creature was throwing up green slime, very, what is it? Like Nickelodeon.
Oh, yeah.
Nickelodeon,
so
like slime fountain.
Wow.
I was like,
Cole Sprouse really going against his fruits.
I know. He's betrayed. I was like, I just was like, but it's it's for comedic. It's not
Mhm.
like gross on purpose.
Yeah.
So, but it's just kind of like a character exploration of like a young woman who's kind of just like a weirdo.
Yeah.
And that's what I really liked about that. And I thought that that was a strength. She did say, I remember observing it in this way. I'm like, I think she's like a narcissist or a bit of a
Yeah.
psychopath.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't even care about the creature really.
Mhm.
When they're starting to have more of a relationship,
Yeah.
she's like not really concerned about, I don't know, it's kind of, I will say like she gets over it
Mhm.
right away.
Yeah.
She kind of is like, oh, so this is a thing, and she's just gonna like roll with
Yeah, like
okay,
she's
so
not,
there's a zombified
Yeah.
like person,
and there's no explanation of how it happens.
no
She's just like, all right, yeah.
explanation. There is like a lightning strike.
Which
yeah.
I think because she does say like, I wish I was
She
I wish
does.
I was with you.
Yeah.
And so I think she
Be careful what you wish for.
And- yeah.
Her wish came true,
Yeah.
but in a way that so that was at the beginning. She finds solace, and it's like the cemetery, and specifically this grave of the creature.
Mhm.
There's a lovely bust in the
yes,
in the
bust.
shape in the lovely sculpted face of Cole Sprouse.
Yes. Which we need to know who has
Yeah.
that now.
I know. I'm
Where
like,
did it
I
end
kind
up?
of want to display that.
Yeah.
Or we'll make a replica craft night.
Yes.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And it wasn't what I did expect it to kind of unfold the way it was,
Mhm.
but I also didn't. It
Yeah.
was funny.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know.
It is like, it's way more about like Lisa and her sister Taffy,
Yes.
and then the other guy that Lisa likes.
Yes.
Whose name
Michael
I forgot.
Kent, I
Michael,
think.
yeah. And yeah, like way more
The
about
character.
them than it is about her and the creature.
And it provides like there's a lot of there are a lot of complexities and layers with
Mhm.
Lisa's like experience of her family and
Yeah.
like obviously her sisterhood. You can look into that
Mhm.
with Taffy, which is really important, but also a relationship with her stepmom, which they make purposefully. Like her stepmom is literally the worst.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just kind of explores like family and then belonging. And I
Mhm.
think towards the end, she's like, okay, I'm gonna just kind of be confident in who I am and love myself. And then
Mhm.
through different circumstances, she sort of falls in love with the creature.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of her belonging.
Yeah.
Then. So it's like she kind of leaves her family to like be
Mhm.
with the creature. Which
yeah.
yeah.
It's like, it's fair and it's cute, but then it's also sad because I feel like Taffy's trying so hard to be her sister
Mm-hmm.
and like to make her feel welcomed.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like Lisa has her own trauma that no one's like letting
Right.
her, like everyone just, her mom was murdered.
Yeah.
And then they're just kind of annoyed at Lisa for like being sad about it,
Yeah.
which is like not the way to deal with that.
Yeah.
So then obviously she feels like an outcast. It's like, I don't know.
Right.
She could have had a very normal, nice life, I think, if she like
Mhm.
went to therapy
Right.
and people cared. But
Agreed.
yeah,
Yeah. If it wasn't the 80s.
yeah. But
And-
yeah, and then we wouldn't have a movie.
Yeah. No,
Speaking
it
of
had
the
to happen
80s,
for content. We had to
Oh, yeah.
enjoy it.
speaking of the 80s, just like the design of this movie,
I'm happy you mentioned it.
so good.
Yes.
It's just, I don't know. I think it adds to like, it's a scary-ish movie, you
Mhm.
know? But then everything's like pink and pastel, and it's so fun.
No, their budget, whoever put the background,
Mhm.
all of these materials, the house, everything together,
Yeah.
specifically the tanning booth shed.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Taffy's
So
tanning booth
good.
shed. That's like a
Her
shrine.
shrine to herself.
Yeah, she has like a
Oh my
prom queen crown
Yeah.
and like all of her cheerleading.
Yeah, her like
It's-
pageant trophies
Yeah,
and stuff.
it's like if Elle Woods from Legally
Yes.
Blonde, like that's kind of the
So
vibe. It's
good.
like if that like Legally Blonde, but make it like a spooky, scary movie, a
Yeah.
slasher, but
That's
with
what-
a creepy zombie.
like, she says this to Taffy at the end about how like Taffy's the kind of person that would normally be so mean to Lisa and like would ignore her and stuff, but she like made a point to want to be her friend. And I think that's so cute that even though it didn't really work out.
I know it didn't work out, but when you look at like on paper, Taffy's like, oh yeah, you can borrow this, like it's fine. Like
she wants so badly to like have a sister. I feel like yeah, so cute.
Yeah.
Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, would you recommend this movie?
I would recommend it. Yeah, I think it's worth watching.
Yeah,
especially for my brothers who are like, I don't want to watch a girl movie. Like, specifically for one of my favorite moments, the peen axe slice off.
Yeah. Classic.
They would find that funny. I feel like so that's funny. Redeemable enough.
I don't think that was like, that scene was so much better on like an actual TV.
Yes.
I did not see as much on the small little airplane screen.
Right.
So it was made so much better.
It was wonderful. And I want to talk about, there was, I think also, it's like a normal movie and like it has storytelling in that way, but then the beginning, her like dream sequence where it's black and white and she so wakes up and there's like bats, like what's the child's
it's like the
weird
mobile?
Yeah, one of those. There's like bats in that, and her makeup is amazing, and it's just like that kind of using the word again. It like elevated the film. I was like, I was like the storyboard, whoever like decided that this needed to be part of. I was like, well done. I really liked that aesthetically.
It's such like a light, like not deep movie, but then there's very clearly like a huge like they just like pay homage to like all these very classic movies, so they like obviously know their stuff and they know.
And then I think last thing I'll say is I was surprised that they didn't immediately have like a love relationship going on. She was interested in someone else, and then it kind of they ended up together, and it's like, okay, well that's expected, but I thought that they were just gonna be like endgame right away. So that like wasn't even part of it. He was just kind of a supportive homie. He was
they were just
like
friends.
A friend. Yeah, they had friends to lovers.
Yeah,
I loved it.
And he's so like, because he's from like the early 1800s, I think is when he died.
Traditionalist.
He's so cute. Yeah, like
chivalry existed.
It really did. And he was just
no, he was trying to help her out. And then
more men like this zombie man.
Yes. Yeah. Of all the zombie men, he was the most gentlemanly.
Yeah. 10 out of 10.
And I also wasn't expecting, which to be fair, this is true to like, I think Mary Shelley, I did read it in school, but this was again, like,
I know it's been a while.
10 years ago. Yeah. But I think they call him like the wretch. And Mary Shelley, I forget what they call it. It's probably creature wretch or like it's, I don't know. That was my epiphany when I realized I'm like, wait, so Frankenstein isn't the monster.
I know.
Frankenstein is the person who puts the monster together. I was like, oh, you know, but I was expecting Cole Sprouse to speak.
Yeah.
And so when he was grunting for most of the movie and then had like a nonverbal role, I was kind of like, you know what? I'm fine with that. I was like, okay, sure.
Almost like, part of me is like, why cast Cole Sprouse as
if
this person who's not speaking? But then it almost helped it, I feel like, because you don't think of him as Cole Sprouse. You think of him as this like weird creature.
No. And I feel like all of us are so used to like Cole Sprouse's character of Jughead like saying like the most annoying, weird like,
but why was I still in love with Jughead?
Like, you know, he's like, they're like, okay, great, we're gonna cast you, but we want you to like actually
just
not
like
speak.
Stop talking. Yeah.
Do what you're doing, but like actually, we don't need you to speak at all. They're like, you'd be perfect for it.
Oh my gosh.
And then it made at the very end, he kind of says like he does have like a one.
Oh yeah, like he's like reading.
He's reading something. Yeah, whatever.
A poem or something.
And so that kind of makes it obviously more impactful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was kind of like not enjoying the I get very impatient with like, I'm like, dude, can you just like, can they fix him or like give him a shower, you know, so he can like be better already?
gross
But yeah,
for a
it's a
long
gradual growth. So as he's changing, she's changing as well.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
then,
It's a very visual change for both of them.
Yes.
And yeah.
So yeah, I would recommend it to, I feel like most anyone. Obviously some people are just like not gonna be, I don't know.
But it's really like, I guess we should probably also like rank them on like gore and like scariness maybe.
Oh yeah.
I would say this is like, I feel like I'd put it at like a 2 scary.
Yeah.
Like it's like not scary.
Yeah.
But then there's like some gore, but it's also not gross gore.
Yeah.
So on like a grossness scale, I don't know, 4?
Yeah. I agree. On a scale, if we're going to 10. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I think it's very approachable for like people who don't like scary movies also.
It's lighter in tone even than like a lot of the Harry Potter movies.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird, dark kid
like, I know.
content. Okay, sorry. Janet, the stepmom,
Oh,
we're just...
yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
She's
the
so
scene when
iconic. I can't.
She's cleaning the house with a martini and she's listening to her like inspirational...
Her Walkman.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
it's
it's so good.
Wearing a jazzercise like out. Oh my gosh, it's
Which
just...
is like, it's so me because I listen to my podcast when I clean, but I think I need to add the martini into it.
Yeah. Oh,
and
for
then
sure.
it would be perfect.
Absolutely, as you should.
Yeah.
It was...
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well done. Everyone,
So good.
the casting was
The casting
good.
was so
The casting
good.
was good.
Yeah. Everything about this movie is so good.
Yeah. I thought it was enjoyable. I liked it.
Yeah. I want so many more people to see
Like,
it. I think it didn't get the recognition that it deserved.
No.
Like, it came out so long ago, and I saw a little bit about it on Instagram right when it came out. But then, yeah, I hadn't heard anything about it since then. So
Yeah, it surprised me, and I think maybe because it was marketed more as a teen. I don't know. It just like wasn't the way it was marketed in my head. It didn't align as much. But yeah, it's a lot lighter than like some of the more recent like teen like My Babysitter's a Killer, where there's a lot of gore, and then it has like, I think like Bella Thorne was in it, or like more like YouTube famous people who are like in these movies. It's better than that. I thought it did a good job. I feel like they did like a good job with it.
yeah, I really think it does. It deserves more than it got.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would agree. And even though Cole Sprouse as a human like has like became a meme as a person, I don't know, his weird zombie person, it's just like worth witnessing. I'm
good.
like,
it's not a role I ever thought I'd see him in.
Yeah, his like portrayal isn't like my favorite thing, but it's like fine.
Yeah. I mean,
like,
it's a weird role.
Yeah,
so
I'm
it's
not a
yeah.
super, I don't really like, I don't know. He still like grosses me out, but like whatever. I love Lisa. I love like Janet. I like all the women. I like all the women.
The women characters are so good.
The women in the show, and then the cute pink home and the tanning booth. I'm like,
so
that's
good.
the aesthetic
It's
I
a great
wanted.
girly, campy movie. Yeah,
very camp.
Okay, 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Yes.
Now we'll move on because we spent so long.
I know, sorry,
but it's such a good movie. Okay, this one will be fast. In a Violent Nature. This one, Claire watched, and then I watched in about 30 minutes.
Yes.
So you're gonna take. Well, I'll start with, it's directed by Chris Nash, and then stars Ryan Barrett as Johnny. And then I feel like I didn't put anyone else who is in it because they're barely in it.
No,
so I feel like
they're more unknowns.
Yeah.
I would say, so I think I saw a trailer of this on TikTok, and just aesthetically, it seemed like more of a low budget slasher kind of like, I thought it was like, okay, nature, like there's a summer camp.
Yeah,
and
very
then you
Friday
have
the 13th.
Very Friday the 13th. You have this killer going around, and well, you didn't know that he was just like, well, I don't know. I was like, maybe he won't kill people.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, I didn't know where they were going with it. I think I just saw like 5-second long like scene of him walking, but it ended up being like, it's kind of like the serial killer POV of him walking around. Mm-hmm. It's like ASMR, you're a serial killer walking through the woods.
Yeah, I think like I want somebody, and maybe this already exists, but I want somebody to make a version of this movie that's just like on YouTube or whatever, just him walking.
Yeah.
And I want to like put it in the background of my life.
Yes.
It's just like,
no, that would
so
be
nice to watch.
No, it was we read specific comments about how
we
it's
need
just
to
like
read the reviews.
Yeah, when I was watching it, there was, because I was watching it on YouTube, and there was someone in the comments saying like, is this like relaxing ? And I was like, oh, is it? But yeah, kind of going through from like a story standpoint and some choices that were made for like the actual plot. Mm-hmm. It wasn't great, but I will say I was, kind of frustrated in how it unfolded, especially being like a 2024 created
it doesn't
movie.
Seem like it's
it didn't have like a lot of the nuance or like anything that would have been like redeemable for it. But in talking to you about it and kind of like recapping, we noticed that there's no like background music or sound really. So it's all like him walking through so there were some redeemable aspects of it that were like, it's kind of interesting because we always see the Batman effect of like from the perspective of the people being killed, and you don't know where the killer is. And then for this one, almost 95% of the time, it's like we know exactly where the killer is because we've been following him for 10 minutes as he walks. This always walking.
I could, no running or anything. This is why I could watch it in 30 minutes because we just skipped all the walking parts.
Yeah, I would love a request to someone for just to cut out all the killings and just having Johnny walk around in the woods. It would be so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
ASMR. Johnny walks in the woods.
I think it's like a cool idea following the killer, but then there's so many parts that I feel like we missed because of that. Like they never discovered the girl that he kills in the water. I feel like her body then floating in the water is like, would be so cool to have them discover. And then they never saw it. So it's like, it doesn't even matter all these ways that he's killing people. No one ever sees it.
Exactly.
Which makes it less scary kind of.
Yeah.
Like,
and we don't see the one body that they do find, which is Aaron, that he brings back to Johnny, the killer, brings back to the ranger station. We just hear that, like, we don't see that discovery.
Yeah.
But again, we were talking about how one of the like faults of this movie is its like lack of consistency on like what it's trying to do.
Yeah.
So it was very like, it didn't feel like there were some like very intense gore scenes in some of the killings. And then in other of the killings, it was like someone just like drowned, and it was very,
you don't
like,
see anything.
Yeah, you don't. It's just it's very. It was an interesting choice, and it wasn't very, for me watching. I wasn't very. It wasn't like a rewarding decision. I feel like on the story, from a story standpoint,
the people he killed in like super violent ways didn't deserve it.
Yeah,
kind of like, not that anybody deserve to die,
right?
But it's like you kind of expect in these kinds of movies that like the really mean characters,
right,
like the bully of the group, we want him to die in a violent way,
right,
if he's going to die, right? But then it's like the worst person, you don't see him die really. And then like the person we like at the beginning dies first, which is like, it's a choice.
And like the most like, oh yeah, well yeah, the person that we kind of feel for, and we're like, okay.
And I thought we were gonna follow
exactly
sort of him through the movie,
right? And it's kind of like, and also another like inconsistency on their part, the fact that they kind of lay out like the Johnny backstory, which felt very not what that was like. Yeah, it was just like
needed help.
Yeah, it needed help. It was just unnecessary the way like. We would have changed a lot of things about about like just the story and how it played out. But you kind of are sympathizing with Johnny. And then like you kind of have somewhat of a hope or expectation that like maybe he'll, if he's like a being that faced like he was an outcast himself, you think that like he would maybe have like
a little bit of sympathy,
bit of like like you're kind of expecting something, which I don't know, they wanted to be unexpected, and it's like, well, we're just gonna kill like this one nice girl the worst way out of everybody just because, and I'm like, that's just like not
it's like
enjoyable.
You can do that, but I don't think it was done well in this movie. Like, I'm not saying that you can never kill like the favorite person first, but yeah, it just like, I don't think it added or anything.
And then I think the last thing we can touch on is like at the very end, it does go with the final girl trope. And so this lady kind of escapes. And then there's this older woman who like picks her up in her car, and she goes into this long-winded story about like bears and like an animal saying like something about you can't change. It's an animal. You can't, they don't, their nature just, like, doesn't have reason. It's like there's no reason to the nature. And I'm like, okay. But then, so it's kind of like, that's why Johnny's just like killing.
It's like he's
without
not human.
Reason. He's like an animal at that point, which is like, okay, like he was just trying to get his necklace back, even though that wasn't really part of the lore. It wasn't explained to my memory. So
they explain it at like the end with the sheriff. He says like, he needs the necklace, and then they're like, okay, we'll just give it back to him. And then the sheriff's like, no, that's not how it works. And then they give it back to him, and then it works. So it's like, sorry to spoil that, but
I know.
You know.
Yeah. So just a little off, but I don't know. I had higher hopes for it. So sorry to put you through that.
Speaking of the final girl though, she's like, I mean, I don't know, because I didn't actually watch the whole thing, but like I didn't really care that she lived.
No.
You know, it's like she was kind of not my least favorite, but like I just didn't know anything about her.
Yeah.
I didn't care. So it was like, okay, sure, you survived, but like I thought she was going to die, and I wasn't going to be sad about it.
Yeah, I felt more connected to literally everyone else in the movie. I was
I don't know why they chose her to live. Yeah.
I know. I wanted like the girl couple to live and like go to yoga together.
Yeah.
And I wanted Aaron to find better friends and like...
Oh yeah, that's another thing that we talked about was like, why were they all... Like they all hated each other.
I know.
And they all went on this camping trip together.
Right.
And it's like, you all need better friends. And why did you decide to go spend a weekend together if you're just going to yell at each other the whole
buddy
time?
system does not exist. No. They're like, oh.
I'm just going to go swim by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say, so Lisa Frankenstein from like us, that's the one of the movies that kind of breaks like our pattern of remoteness and like the woods. So it's more like suburb. There's like creepy or like woodsy cemetery aspects of it, but I feel like a lot of our other movies we've watched are more like, even if they're in the home, it's like a remote home or like in the woods
like no
somewhere.
Help. Yeah.
A lot of like these forested environments.
Well, and it's also interesting because in Lisa Frankenstein, she is the killer. And so you do follow the killer. And I don't know why I was thinking like, oh, it's so unique. I mean, obviously it's a different kind of killer.
Yeah.
But like, that's what I want is like the Lisa Frankenstein, like at least you have...
That's the POV I want. Yeah.
It's like you have a little bit of, like just a little bit of,
right.
I don't know, something about the killer to like them or like care. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
But there were cool ASMR aspects of this movie. There was a very pretty wood shot at the end. That's it. But yeah, we had another similar critique about like showing the face and like maybe like showing some serial killer faces, which maybe we can get into more when we talk about.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
that can be like a end of episode.
Yeah, I would have I would have liked it maybe if they didn't show Johnny's face.
He wasn't super scary.
Yeah.
Although the makeup was great, but
oh, it was good.
But it just wasn't done in a way.
It wasn't even necessary.
No, because it was also done during like a not scary scene.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It could have been a lot better.
It wasn't a pivotal point.
Yeah. Okay. I will let you give us a rating of whether or not you think we should watch it on a scale of 1 to 10 because I didn't actually watch it. So.
Oh.
What would you suggest?
1 to 10. I would say I would do a solid like 5. Like watch it if like it literally either way. I feel like you know, it's indifferent. Like, I'm completely neutral in, well, it's like, I don't know if it'll change your life in any way. You know, you will be the same
whether you watch it or not.
Yeah. And I was initially going to be like, oh, what a waste of time.
Yeah.
But for the specific, like, as reflecting, I'm like, there is something like redeemable about the way that you're just kind of watching this
it
guy walk
it could
through
kind
the
of be a
woods.
good, like, that could be another good Friday the 13th party movie, kind of like.
It was complete rip-off of that. Yeah.
Yeah. But you can, like, talk over it. It's like, yeah, I feel like it would be good to watch with a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's probably just like, it's too boring to watch by yourself.
Yeah. And then I will say, I want to read these two comments
Yes.
that we screenshotted. So this is just YouTube commenters. Someone said, man, I'm so pissed off I paid for this knockoff Friday the 13th movie. It's literally an hour and 20 minutes of this guy silently walking by himself. And I'm like,
So
you know,
good.
but it's actually not. There's some very gruesome killing. So like, if you're, that's not what I like. So that like ruined it for me.
Yeah.
I wish it was just this guy walking. And then another comment said, on a more positive note, it feels like I'm watching someone play a slasher video game, which actually that could be
It
negative
feels-
too. But
No,
there's
yeah,
like,
it
there
feels
is
so
like a
much like that.
soothing like ASMR, like that's
Yeah.
why it's a thing. It does feel like that.
Yeah.
It's like you're controlling this man like walking through the woods.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of happy that for the most part, he like is always just walking. He like
Yeah.
kind of walks slightly fast at one point, but otherwise he's like, you know,
Yeah.
pretty standard. So
What would you give it? Scale of 1 to
Scary?
10, scary, and then
Gore.
gory.
Gory, I would put it at like a 7 or 8,
Mm-hmm.
just because it's
There's
not.
like 2 really bad
There's
ones.
really like there's one that just made me so grossed out, and I think it's just I get more affected by slangs of like women in particular.
Oh, yeah.
I find like
Yeah.
the brutality towards like more female based
Yeah.
characters a bit more repulsive. Sorry,
Mhm.
boys, I don't care as much
I mean,
when you
it's-
die.
Yeah, but it's true. And that's why, like, you know, plug for Alien.
Yeah.
Not the new Alien. They do.
Romulus.
Yeah, Romulus
It's
is.
bad.
No, it's a good movie.
Okay.
Like, you
Well,
should still
it's-
watch it, but there's
it's
still
female-led,
female.
So then
yeah.
they're gonna experience be
the
the target
original
a lot of
Alien is kind of written to be like against men. which is, like,
Oh.
We
Okay, yeah, I need to finish your. I need to
love.
re-listen
Listen
to
to
that
that
episode.
episode, yeah.
From a scary standpoint, I feel like it's a 6,
hmm
maybe.
It's like
Because
yeah,
there's
because you're
no jump
following
scares
him.
really.
Oh yeah,
Because there's no audio, so
Yeah.
it's not like forcing you to freak out.
which I appreciate. I don't like.
It's not no cheap.
I think
scares.
audio jump scares annoy me so much.
Yeah, to me, it's peaceful except for the more disgusting moments.
Mhm.
But otherwise, I kind of liked it. So.
Yeah. You could
But
just fast
for me,
forward
the
through
scary
few
and
little
like the
spots.
gore are kind of overlapping, but
Yeah.
I'll lessen the scary factor. But
Yeah, that's fair.
dude, we'll just have to make an edit of like the.
I know.
It makes me think
I
of
know.
like I was on YouTube and I found a video of like ASMR Dr. Phil like walking through the woods. Like you're arguing with Dr. Phil, or like you're breaking up with Dr. Phil in the woods, but it escalates. And it's like, no, and it's literally a YouTube video.
Yeah.
People, everyone go look this up because this is basically in a violent nature, but it's just clips of Dr. Phil's like voice being like, I can't do a southern but and then it's just like
That's
it's
so
like the audio of
funny.
like someone walking
Yeah.
through the woods, and then it like the steps speed
my
up, and
gosh.
Dr. Phil's like, well, you better talk to, like, you can't say that to me. And then it's just like, it's slowly escalating. And then
Oh
like
my
there is this
gosh.
creepy music in the background. Anyways, but that was basically, you know,
Yeah.
if you don't want
It's
to
like-
watch In a Violent Nature,
Yeah.
just go find that on YouTube for
Mhm.
free and it will do the same
That's
thing.
like In a Violent Nature
Yeah.
if it starred Dr. Phil.
Mhm.
Okay, let's move on to The Strangers.
Okay.
I feel like just because there's also no like reveal at the end of like
Mhm.
like you kind of know what's going to happen
Yeah.
from the beginning, so I feel like we're not going to spoil it, which is why I'm putting it at the beginning kind of.
Well, the original Strangers
Mhm.
came out so long ago, so it's
That's
like
true.
if you don't know what's happening, that's on you.
And this is a remake.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it's not really a remake, but it is a remake.
Reimagine?
Yeah.
No, not even. It's like very, I don't know.
Written by the same guy.
Yeah.
I don't remember what his name is. Sorry
Brian
to him.
something.
Yeah.
Brian Cristino?
I don't know. But
Totino's Pizza Rolls.
It's always interesting to me when, like, usually you get this with books to movies, but, like,
Brian Bertino.
this is a... what?
Brian Bertino.
Bertino. Cool. Good for him. Yeah, like, with him, it's like he wrote this movie and then he's rewriting the movie to be, like, a little bit different. And it's super interesting to me that he would, like, the things that he decided to change, like, was he not happy with the first one? It's so interesting, like, yeah, I don't know. Which I do think, I mean, granted, this one was made, like, 12 years later or whatever. Well, no, more than that. 14 years later?
I'm going to quote yourself. Don't make me do math.
Yeah.
From your intro. Don't make me do math.
It's such easy math, too.
Brina
It's just
codes.
2008 to 2024. Oh, my gosh. But whatever. So it's a new movie, so obviously it's, like, a little
like
bit better.
16 years?
It's 16 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
I had to close my eyes.
Oh my gosh.
That's a whole human. That's a whole teenage girl.
Yeah, he had a lot of teenage
So
girls.
a teenage Sweet 16 girl a year ago.
Yeah.
The original OG Strangers
came out.
with Liv Tyler.
Yeah.
So Lord of
Beautiful.
the Rings.
Who's the guy?
I don't
I don't
know
know.
or care.
I didn't write it down. Okay, yeah, let's talk about the original Strangers
Okay.
first. And then just, like, super quick. Because basically all I want to say is I absolutely hate the guy. I don't remember what his name is. It doesn't matter. James.
Yeah.
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 He's the worst. I
Yeah.
knew at the beginning I was going to hate him the most, even though he's not the one
Mhm.
who was actively trying to murder people. But
Mhm.
he was so mean. And then
Mhm.
it's like,
Gaslight.
yeah, and I liked the arc, like their relationship arc. And I liked that it ended with her, like, with the engagement ring on. And that was, like, super cute.
Mhm.
But then at the same time, it's like the Hallmark movie thing where, like, they're just a jerk the whole time. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden they're like, oh, I love you.
in a dire situation.
Yeah.
You're
And
like,
it's just
okay.
like,
It took us dying together for
Why-
me to want to say yes.
yeah, like, I just feel like he was so mean
Right.
that, like, I'm glad that she put the ring on for the ending because it was really cute, but I don't think they should have gotten married.
Question.
Yes.
Did she put it on or did the killers put it on
She
her?
put it on and then it got stuck. But then I think she was like, well, I would marry you, I think.
Okay, yeah. No, they do kind of, that's kind of the story arc of their relationship.
Mhm.
But also, in dogpiling on this hatred of James, the main
Yes.
character, I'm like, so he is like proposing, wanting to marry Kristen,
Yeah.
the Liv Tyler's character, and they start off with this weird tumultuous like drama.
Yeah.
There's tension because I think she says no.
Yeah, they don't show it.
Yeah, they don't show it. So they
Yeah.
kind of like we're like, oh, like you can cut the tension with a knife
Yeah.
sort of situation. But I'm like, she would have said yes if he was a great partner. Like
I know.
there's some weird reason
There's
why she didn't want to
something
marry
happening.
him.
Yeah. I know.
So
you
we're
needed
gonna blame
an
it on
explanation.
James.
James is the real
Yeah, we don't feel
villain
bad
of
for
the
him.
story.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just obviously if you don't know, there's just these three killers who wear masks. You have
Mhm.
Scarecrow, Dollface, and Pinup Girl, as
Mhm.
they're so called, and they just target this couple because they notice that they're home in this house, and they're
Mhm.
like, we're just gonna have this game where we like freak you out and then eventually kill
Yeah.
you. And then what was I gonna say?
Do you want to talk about the the inspiration that you were looking up?
Oh
About
yeah.
the writer.
Well, yeah, so Brian, I'm going to get probably some of my facts wrong, but I think it was Brian or one of the directors of the original movie. It was loosely inspired. So they both of the remake in the 2024 movie that we saw this year and then
Mhm.
the original 2008 movie both open up saying in the United States
Yes.
there are 1.4 million violent crimes committed each year, you know, so it's just kind of prefacing that this is inspired by true events. And so I was like, okay, watching that in like 2008 as my child self in 4th or 5th grade, it freaked me out. But I'm pretty sure the actual like inspired by true events is either Brian or the director. There was a series of break-ins in one of their childhoods that it was based on, and then they're pulling from like other famous murders at the time. So, which is what you talked about?
Yeah, the Tate murders.
Yeah, the Manson.
Yeah. So, you know, we do recap that in the first episode. So,
but I couldn't find anything specifically about. There was a specific house where there was like a person wearing this mask and this mask and this mask, and then this happened.
It's just like like I was saying last night, like every early 2000s scary movie is like based on real events, but like,
and it's actually
just
not
because,
and I didn't know how to Google correctly back then, so I was really freaked out because I'm like, oh my gosh, like Scarecrow and these doll face ladies are out there like just murdering random people, and it could be me. But I do think I couldn't re-find this detail when I was researching it again, but I thought one of the creatives behind like the story did have a specific instance where someone had come to the house asking for Tamra. Yeah. If Tamra was home or if Tamra was there. And I'm like, that is kind of cool. Like, that's a fun, like, lead in to if and that is true. I'm like, that's all you need. Yeah.
In the original and the remake.
It's a through line, for
even though, like, everyone else's names changed, the Tamra girl is still, they're still looking for Tamra.
I mean, I don't know so Tamra. It's very... Yeah. What if Tamra was home? Would they be like, okay. Next
Would
house.
Be like, oh, wrong Tamra?
Yeah.
Tamra's not like that common of a name, so I feel like it's a good name for asking.
Yeah.
I don't know. I looked up the definition of violent crime from the FBI.
Thank you.
It includes, I guess non-negligent manslaughter and robbery
so
and
accidental,
aggravated
like,
assault.
Drunk driving. Could count.
So it's like, because negligent manslaughter is really just like not taking someone to the doctor or like something. But this is like non-negligent. I don't really know what that means. But there's like, and then obviously like murder and rape. But there's also some not very scary things, you know? Like, of course people get like robbery. I don't know. Like that happens all the time.
Right.
So, I don't know. Of course they inflate the numbers or they just make it seem scarier.
Right. Yeah. They use statistics that would like support them because the vague terminology, you know. Yeah. So when you're an adult and not a child, you're like,
you know how to Google
can poke
things.
Holes in their reasoning. But I do like in a comparison for the newer film, Somewhere in Oregon.
I know. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's another thing that is gonna come in with the other movies. But yeah, just like the generic Oregon, like it's, I guess, the scariest place to other people who don't live close to Oregon.
It doesn't even matter.
That's where Bigfoot is, so it's, I guess, kind of scary. Lots of woods. I don't know. I don't really get it. Like, why not give it a name? I don't know why they didn't like say this place in Oregon.
I know. Or just wait until like they didn't even need to do that.
That's true.
Just wait until they got to Venus.
She says like it's 3 miles to, or not 3 miles, 3 hours, I guess, to Portland.
Yeah.
Like we know where Portland is.
Yeah.
We don't need you to give us the subtitle.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. Okay. What are your thoughts about it compared to the old one? The new one compared to the old one.
I'm a bit biased because we have a similar, I get very, what's a word for it? Well, I just am biased based on like if I like an actor.
Yeah, yeah.
So I like Madeleine Petsch. Like I was
That is literally the sole reason I wanted to watch this movie.
I agree. I don't think I would have watched the 2024 version if Madeleine like wasn't one of the leads.
Which she like, I think I was going to say this earlier, but this movie I feel like was just so well made.
Yeah.
And like her, I feel like a lot of scary movies don't have big names in them. And not to say that she's like the biggest name ever, but I think she's a very talented actor. So like just her performance in this, I feel like made it so good. Yeah. And then, I mean, the storyline was like, I think a lot better than the original. And I just think it was like a very well made scary movie, which you don't get all the time.
Yeah.
So I loved that.
Right.
Anyways,
I'm so glad. I think for nostalgia, I still have to favor like the original one that
That's
I
fair.
saw, just because to me it was so creepy, and I liked the layout of the house and like the way technology wasn't as helpful.
Yeah.
And I just really thought it was interesting how it opens up with this like couple, but they have tension and the relationship is kind of messed up.
Yeah.
And I liked that it's not really that gory. Like there's some stabbing at the end, but that's basically it.
Yeah.
But I will say, yeah, it does suck that the guy like basically abandons Liv Tyler's character and is like, okay, well, I'm gonna go to like the barn and there's a radio there and you just like stay in the house. And it's like, we know that. I'm like, what?
The
From
house
the previous,
is not
like,
safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love when he like opens the door and he's like, okay, you run and then I'll do something else. And it's like, yes, she's gonna be like the decoy. Like,
yeah, I
know.
know.
What are you thinking?
I'm like, that's just the decisions that were made were like so dumb.
Yeah.
But and I think for me, I remember being like, oh, it kind of plucked at my heart / drama strings, like thinking that he shot his
that
one
was
of his
really
closest
sad.
friends.
Yeah.
I had never like thought about that, and it kind of shows you, you know, I don't know. It's just hard because he had such like he was so adrenaline ramped up at like trigger happy finger.
And why would he be there? Yeah.
Exactly. And he got there early too, which is the worst.
Yeah. I think I think the part with the friend and then the like not broken engagement, but like you know, like her saying no. If those two things were in the new one, I think it would be so much better. Because I think like the tension is something you don't get in a lot of scary movies because you want like what we normally get is what we got in this new one where it's like, oh, cute, like they love each other and now it's sad because they're dying.
Yeah.
But it's like so interesting because it's really like it's so much more scary to have somebody like a loved one die after you have a fight or whatever, you know?
Right.
Because then that's just like so sad. And I think that would have been so cool in this new one. And then also, because he still accidentally shoots someone. Yeah,
but it's
the new
the
one.
fridge
It's
fixer,
just a random
the person
guy.
who came to fix that. Yeah, and so it's just
it's like still sad, but it's not. It's not the same.
It's
obviously.
not. It doesn't have the same weight. Sorry, Mr. Stranger. We didn't care about you as much because we had no idea who you were.
Well, and it's like even if you accidentally shot a random person versus if you accidentally shot your best friend, like clearly it's going to affect you differently.
I don't even like
to
think about it.
No,
it's awful.
I know. It's so sad.
Yeah.
So it's like even, we didn't care about him, but also it didn't affect the character as much.
Yeah. But I think I do enjoy like watching more updated versions of older movies because I like to see like just like the advancement of like film creation.
Yeah.
Like you can just tell that like, oh, it looks like it looks different, or if there's like, I don't know, they just have more like methods for making like a better film in a better way.
Yeah.
So that part was, so I'm like, okay, I want to watch the movie for this. So it's still like worth it. I just wonder, I'm like, they kept some things like so spot on that for me, it was just like, obviously it's like predictable. So I was just kind of like, it is, but it isn't. Cause you like don't know exactly. Well, I don't know. You didn't know if it was going to be the same.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't really know.
Yeah.
So.
But at the same time, it's like, I think starting, because I hadn't seen either of them before yesterday.
Yeah.
And starting the first, like the original, I knew like it was going to take the entire movie for them to die and then they were going to die, you know? Because it's like there's only two people.
Yeah.
And they're in the middle of nowhere. No one's going to come save them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you know, like you're halfway through the movie and they're like about to die and you're like, well, you know, they aren't going to die because that doesn't really make sense. So I think it's predictable, but then it's also like, I feel like it was predictable even before seeing the original, you know?
Yeah, that's 100% fair. And then this is new subject, like but this is what I was thinking about, because we were both kind of like, okay, what's with like the Mormon like religious children? And we're like, okay, because that was present in the 2024 version, but it was more like the town was like handing out these pamphlets and they were being kind of weirdly judgy about like, oh well, this couple isn't married yet, and like they're just being weirdly judgmental.
They were like traveling together,
so
they're like, oh, you're
married,
not married, but you're clearly
but
like,
you've been together for 5 years, like not Christian. But I was thinking about this because it's like, I wonder if the Mormon like boys are kind of like the reason for them, like maybe like just because they needed someone to like discover the bodies at the end. But I was thinking about how it's kind of like they're an interesting like foil, if that's the correct word, for like the killers, because you have two of these like traveling people and one of them is like, it's just like how they're received, and they're just like compared, like you have the killers who are traveling from like supposedly town to town just like killing people, and then you have the people who are just these innocent little boys who are going to house, and they're just like, well, it's just like a comparison. It's like, unfortunately the killers went to their house instead of the Mormon. Like it'd be fun to be like, well, I would have loved like the bicycle boys to come to my house instead of the killers.
I would always choose
like,
them.
it's just kind of shows you like, oh, well, you have the positive side of the travelers. Like how home
like
visitors,
just whoever's home
versus the negatives.
Yeah. That reminds me, I know we talked about this a little bit before about how it's based on the Manson murders, but it reminds me of like, there's a lot of theories of, especially like, or specifically with the Tate murders, like why it was them. And a lot of theories are that like they were going for someone else, or like they knew that this guy owned the house and was renting it out. And it's just like they happened to be the ones who were renting it. And it's not like, I guess that's not even a theory. Like it's kind of what happened. But like, yeah, it's not that he had anything against any of those people in the house. He was just like, I'm killing you because you're somewhat connected to this other guy, and I'm trying to send a message to this other guy. So it really is like a similar, like, I don't know why the LaBianca murders, I don't know why that happened, because that was also kind of the other, like that was the night after the Tate murders. And I think it was just a random couple that like, they just happened to be home. So it's kind of,
that's
similar thing.
I will say that like nugget as part of the storytelling, like the arbitrariness of like the killing, like the
it's so scary.
Supposed randomness is, that's what freaked me out, because there was a way growing up where I could explain to myself not to be scared, because I'm like, okay, well, there's a demon in this house, but I'm not in that house. So it's like, you know, Toby from Paranormal Activity isn't going to target me because I'm not like associated with the family. You know, I'm not in that house. Friday the 13th, Jason, I'm like, I didn't go to that summer camp. Like, you know, or like for Johnny, like, okay, I'm not
grab scary.
I don't live somewhere in Oregon. Like
somewhere in Oregon.
But I actually, whatever. So, but that was why I was like, no, there's no getting out of it, because it's random. And it's just the fact that you're there, you could be punished. So it's like always be wary, always watching Mike Wazowski.
I think that's why I like the new one, just solely because it's not like they're not in their house, they're in a random cabin. So I'm like, I feel better about it, because like I'm not gonna stay in some random man's cabin in the middle of the woods. Although I will say, oh my gosh, I don't think we've told this story on the podcast, and I don't know if I've told you, but did I tell you about when Ethan and I went to the mushroom house? So Ethan's mom for Christmas one year got us this Verbo that was called the Mushroom House. We show up and it's just like this old, like super kooky man that like got inherited this like huge amount of land and then built all of these houses like by hand out of like mud and straw, and then painted them to look like mushrooms. And it's just him. And then there's like this one lady who's helping, but then she leaves. And then we're like kind of walking, like we got there in like the afternoon.
Where is this at?
It's in
California?
like northern Washington. Oh. Yeah. Like Mount Vernon kind of. And so we're like, we go on a little walk through, there's like paths that like hiking paths, right? So we're like going on a little hike, and Ethan is like trying to be funny and is like, what if that man's just like waiting for us and he's gonna murder us? And I'm like, you literally cannot say that because I'm already scared of that. And then we go get pizza because it's like quote unquote camping, but like it's literally right outside the town. So we go get pizza, we come back, we like eat our pizza, and we're kind of like, there's no lock on the door. Like, this is weird. We're like in the middle of nowhere. This is like a really weird man. And then yeah, so we were like, do we do it? And then we were like, we cannot sleep here. Like, we have to go home. So then we just drove home because we were like, if we leave right now, it was like probably 3 hours away. So we're like, if we leave right now, we'll get home at like 1 a.m. That's worth it. Like, we would rather sleep in our
Trust your
home.
gut.
I know. I'm like, I think that's
Mushroom
the closest that I've gotten to
a weird man.
Yeah. It like seemed cute on like the Verbo listing,
it
you
always
know?
does, Marina.
But then, yeah, when you're there, oh my gosh, it was so scary.
Oh,
I
so
literally
sorry.
thought I was gonna die.
Right. Well,
So,
no,
yeah.
you can. I feel like when you sense something,
Yeah.
or like it just.
Yeah.
I'm happy you left.
Yeah, I am too. I don't think that there was anything wrong with that man, but
Yeah.
it's always like the eccentric.
Yeah. We wouldn't
Old
have
man,
movies
you know,
if
if
these
it didn't
people
happen.
if these people
Yeah.
in the movie were like, you know what? I'm feeling something off. And then
Oh, yeah.
they don't leave though.
Yeah. That is another thing I liked about this new one, though. I think there were things that she did that
Yes.
were a little bit not great, but then most of it, like, I was like, I'd do that in this situation, you know? Like, I would try to either, like, she was smart, but then also there were times where she's, like, trying to talk herself out of being, like, freaked out. And I'm like, I do that in my own house. Like,
Yeah.
you know, because my house is old, so there's a lot of noises. And I'm like, no, it's fine. Like, I just need to, like, you know, make some tea and, like, calm down or whatever. But yeah, I feel like I related to her a lot. It wasn't like so many scary movies are like, why are you going outside? Or like, why are you going in that scary shed? You know, like, it's just, you're just being stupid. But she was not, for the most part, she wasn't very stupid.
Yeah.
Which I appreciated. Yeah.
Agreed.
And they're scared. Like, they were, I don't know. I guess you get this in other movies too, but I just feel like them, like, knowing they're going to die and then, like, being so scared. I don't know. I just feel like those scenes of them, like, hiding and stuff were so good.
Right. Well, it really like grips my chest, like the insides, like my soul.
I know.
When
I know.
You can see the realization when they're like, it was Madeline when she was like home alone, and then the person like they keep knocking and they're like, this is not okay, or like the phone's gone, or it's just like you can tell they're like, it dawns on them that
like, this is it.
this
like,
is not good.
Yeah.
Like, this is not, it goes from like, that's a little strange, or like, that's kind of an annoying person, to being like, this is not a safe situation.
Yeah.
And that's when you know it's like, point
No,
of
thank
no
you.
return.
Yeah.
Like, it's not good. So that's always when I'm like, that realization, you're kind of like in anticipation of that. And then it just like gets you.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we rank it? Anything else?
Oh, yeah. Let's rank it. Okay, scariness. I feel like I'm not a good, like you should rank it also, because I'm not a good, like, I'm just, like, scared of so many things. I don't know. Like, I think like an 8 or 9. I'm like, it's pretty scary, but it's not gory necessarily until the end, right? So it's like, I think that's like my kind of movie, is like really stressful but not gross. So I think I would give it like, I'd probably also give it like an 8 or a 9 for like, if you should watch it.
Yeah.
I think if you can like handle it, it's not, especially the new one. I think you should watch the new one because it's less scary than the original, I think.
I think, I would recommend it. I think it's worth watching because I think it's just such, like, I hate using, I'm like, find me a synonym for iconic. It's just like a very,
it is, yeah.
It's a good, scary movie, especially the original. I just think it's so oh my gosh, the concept of it, I'm like, ugh.
It's so scary.
It's awful. I'm like, never, 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 no
Yeah.
thank you, and don't ever want that to happen.
Yeah.
So I would kind of agree with your rankings. I do think I might lower like the spookiness, like maybe to a 7 or something. But the first,
You have a higher tolerance.
no, well, for the new one, because it was like,
Yeah.
but also I was rewatching it with you,
Yeah.
and there was a jump scare, and I was
Yes.
holding tea, and I literally jumped and spilled the tea on myself. So
That was
I can't
so
be
good.
like, I wasn't scared.
You make me, side note, but you make me feel so good about myself when like I am usually so bad at jump scares. But in this movie and in Long Legs, you were like way more jumpy
Yeah.
than me.
Yeah.
And it made me feel so good because you're like so experienced with scary movies, I feel like. And then you're like still really scared of it. So I'm like, okay, like it's
Yeah.
okay for me to jump at jump scares too.
Well, the way I'm going to argue in favor of myself, I think it's the audio,
Yeah.
like the sound that gets me.
Yeah.
I used to be very sensitive growing up to like loud noises, like a little dog or
Aw.
something, like, you know. But I couldn't do fireworks or anything like that. It just, I just wouldn't, it was just very like uncomfy and not good. So I just am like, ugh. But yeah, you've seen me, I get very, jump scares really are not, no bueno. Yeah, they get me, so I can't say I'm like it wasn't even scary. Well, yeah, I got freaked out.
yeah.
It startled me enough where I spilled
You
tea on
spilled your
myself.
tea.
I was holding tea and I jumped enough that the water flew out of the glass.
So good.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
but I do think these, I would recommend them because they're not like grotesque movies.
Yeah.
It's like it's like thrilling.
Yeah.
It's thrilling. It's like a couple. It's easy to follow. It's not too cerebral.
Yeah. And it has an
It's-
actual like storyline
Yes.
with the characters as opposed to In a Violent Nature,
Yeah.
which has no storyline.
Yeah. And then there's some hope at the end because I think the woman in both instances kind of is implied to survive the encounter.
Yeah.
So.
It reminds me, I was thinking about this when I was watching it, but I just listened to a Killer Queens episode. It's like a true crime podcast.
Yeah.
And it was about, it's called like the Wichita Massacre,
Okay.
maybe? I don't know. But it's like this group of friends who like all live together. They got like very violently murdered and one of them survived. But the one that survived, her boyfriend was like also one of the ones who died. And they were like going through like robbing the house before they killed them. And they found an engagement ring and they were like, oh, cool. Like we found this. And then the guy had to be like, yeah, I was going to propose on Friday. So I like just bought this ring. So she like found out he was going to propose as they were like getting murdered. And it's just like so sad, but it reminds me of this movie because it's like,
yeah.
like this should be like the best thing that happens to you, you know? I mean, obviously there's other things, but like it's such like a happy day, you know? Like you don't think about obviously your proposal as being the day that you are murdered, but yeah, it's just like it's so
that would have
sad.
been a fun, like if he had brought a ring.
Yeah,
and
I
they
kind of
found
thought that
it.
was gonna happen when they were
for
like,
the
"Oh, you haven't
2024
proposed
one.
yet."
Yeah.
Like it's been 5 years. I kind of thought he was gonna be like, "Oh, like I was going to propose on this trip or something." Yeah.
Oh, and then I will say this was one other thought I had about the newer version. So I thought like these killers, I thought it was implied that they just kind of drive around from town to town. So when they showed the guy getting murdered at the beginning and then they found the body, I'm like, okay, well, did they double dip in this house? They like did double killings here. I'm like, that's not very, I didn't think that was the type of like, I thought that they were just roamers.
It should have been somewhere else, I think.
Yeah. But so
I liked the beginning though. Like I think it set it up really well. I did think it was the same guy until you pointed out that it wasn't, but I don't think you knew that I thought that.
Wait.
But you were
the
like,
same
"Oh, I
actor?
like." Yeah, well, no, I thought it was
the main,
like a flashback kind of, or not a flashback, a flash
like
forward.
a flash forward.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a different dude.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they looked the same. Like I feel like,
Sorry, boys, you just are not.
they're just like
special
generic
enough.
white boys with dark hair.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like also we were watching it during the day and there was a
Yeah.
glare and I could barely see it because
It's
it was at
okay.
night. But
Yeah.
I do think they could have casted someone who looked significantly different to like show that it's a different person. But whatever, that might just be a me problem. because I couldn't see the screen.
That's okay. Not your fault. I
Yeah.
think it's funny.
But I think it could have been somewhere else, and then just kind of set it up as like a little spooky, like prequel
It
kind of.
gave off a flash forward vibe. So it would have been
Yeah.
interesting if they had like what you said, they cast someone who looked very similar and then
Mhm.
didn't like obviously show him.
Mhm.
And then it would have been interesting if at the end like the guy survived too. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
it was like incorrect. They find
Yeah.
out that was someone else, but then they ended up
Yeah.
both surviving.
That would be cute.
you know?
I like that.
So
Okay, notes for your next remake.
yeah, sure. When I
In
put
16 years.
Strangers chapter 7.
Perfect.
Chapter 7.
I know. I'm
The
really
Strangers.
intrigued about like chapter 2 and what's going to.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Hold on. Let me look at
Yeah, you like saw something about it.
Yeah, because I think I saw a synopsis. It was like upcoming American horror film.
I love that they already
Stars Madeline Petch again.
Oh, so she survives.
I guess, yeah.
Wow.
Okay, and then
Oh, she also is the executive producer, so I feel like because of that she's able to like get this next one rolling pretty
Yeah.
fast.
okay, The Strangers chapter 2. On the way to their honeymoon, a couple's vehicle breaks down, forcing them to take refuge in a remote Airbnb.
Oh,
Oh, maybe that's like, but they weren't going to the honeymoon. Wait,
is it the same guy? No.
Wait.
They both survive. That's so cute, but also like then they're going to die again?
maybe
Or is
they
it
will
like
die.
not the same people?
Maybe they'll kill the doll people.
I hope so.
And then they'll become the
They're the new
mass.
killers.
Yeah, they'll become
Oh
the new
my
killers.
gosh.
They're gonna pull a Princess Bride, Dread Pirate Roberts. They have to take up the mantle.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
All right, on to Long Legs.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay. First of all, directed by Osgood Perkins, who is Anthony Perkins' son, who played, oh my gosh, what's his name? Norman Bates in Psycho. So just like an icon. And I didn't know that before we went to see it, but then I like heard it on, it might have been like a reel or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's just, I don't know. It's just so good.
Uh-huh.
But I think, actually, I don't know. Do you know what other things he's done?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I think he was an actor also, maybe. Yeah, actor and screenwriter. He was in Legally Blonde. So, got that.
Oh, yes. No, I do know this man. He was the person that Elle Woods, Reese Witherspoon comes up. He's trying to
Mhm.
like ask a girl out, and then he's like a nerd, and then Elle hears like the woman, like the girl, like reject him, and like I would never go out with someone like you.
Oh my gosh.
And then Elle's walking up the steps and she's like, how awful. So she like runs back and like smacks him in the face and is like, how dare you not call me back?
Oh my
like,
gosh.
You gave me the most passion-filled night I've ever had. And then of course like that gets the woman interested
Yeah.
and she's
Yeah.
like, I've done my job. And she walks off being
oh my
like,
gosh.
you know, whatever. But
Just,
no, but he's,
a
yeah,
saint.
I
That's
forgot
so
who that
funny.
was, but no, he was, yeah.
that's so random.
Yeah, very,
Um,
very random. Again, second Legally Blonde mention of,
That's so funny.
of
I
the
didn't
pod.
So random. He directed an episode of The Twilight Zone
Okay.
and then some other like lower budget horror movies.
Yeah.
So this is like kind of, I think, his first
Breakout,
Yeah.
kind of, from a
Yeah.
directorial standpoint.
I did want to talk about the marketing campaign, and I want you to talk about that because for some reason I like did not see like any of it, and you did. So
My
I need
algorithm
you
was
to-
like, get
yeah,
me.
yeah.
This is for you.
So
you want me to explain?
Just
So again, unfortunately, I'm mentioning TikTok. But it's just like the little, I don't know. I get some movie like promos on my
Mhm.
TikTok a lot,
Yeah.
and I enjoy it, and I often watch them because I like
Yeah.
to see what's out there. And I'm a trailer. I love seeing the trailers. Like, you know, little side note, I
Yeah.
used to always, I never am early enough to movies anymore, but I loved being early so I could see the trailers.
Yeah. So good.
And I think we were late when we went to see this
Yeah.
one. So I was upset. But
Yeah.
anyways,
that's okay.
but yeah, they did a pretty phenomenal marketing campaign, which almost too phenomenal because then it kind of misleads some expectations or it makes you. But I feel like it was very popular, and I think they did do. I remember them mentioning like, oh, like something about Rotten Tomato scores, and it was pretty high, and then that like eventually got lower. But what was especially interesting was they had Micah, is it Micah Monroe, the main actress who plays Lee Harker. Yeah. So they released a clip, right, saying we recorded Lee Harker's first meeting with Nicolas Cage as Longlegs. Micah had previously never seen like the makeup of Nicolas Cage, and this is the heart rate monitor. And it went up to like 179 BPM, and it kind of plays the audio of like the heartbeat, and then it just shows the clip of Micah kind of just sitting in like an interrogation room, just like camera on the face. Yeah. And like the music builds, the heart rate increases, and you're just like, so that's the grab. It's like, what? It's also Nicolas Cage, right? Yeah. So that's a huge draw.
Which they also did such a good job of not showing Longlegs. Like, you can't even. I was trying to find something to like, I think post on Instagram.
Nothing was
leaked.
And
you can't find any, like even leaked. Now, like there's no pictures of him. Right. Which is so good.
So they did a good, they kept it cracked down. Yeah. So like there weren't any, or I feel like, I don't know, it was just it was very buttoned up, and like that was a good marketing decision on their part, because it's like, oh, I feel like the look of some of these, I don't know, that was a huge draw, because it's like, well, I want to see what he looks like. It's super creepy. Again, it's that, why do we like creepy, spooky horror movies? Because it's like, I want to face it. I'm curious. Like, I want to see what happens. It's like, don't look. I have to look. I don't like what I'm seeing, but I feel like I have to see it. Because it's like, is the imagination worse? Which I would often argue, yes.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, so that was a part of the marketing campaign. It's like which I thought was, I hadn't seen that done before. Yeah, and I'm like, I like the idea of like the makeup team like trying really hard to create something like new, and then being like, I think this is probably going to be a pivotal moment. Let's like put a heart monitor. Yeah. You know, or even if that was like,
I know, who knows if it was real, but
then also we have another Oregon setting. Oh, yes. As well. In the 90s though. Yeah. Which I remember, I was like, it must be like the 70s. This technology's so old. And it's like, no, only the 90s. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, oh, this is like not that long ago, but, but the technology's like whatever. Yeah. And then they had a phone call recording. So there was like, also it kind of went viral on like my algorithm.
And they had like I think it was probably more in like LA and stuff, but they had billboards like with the number on it.
Yeah. So it's like, call this number. And that's how I figured like the setting, because it came up on my phone as Bend, Oregon.
Oh yeah.
The phone number. And then it was just a recording of Longlegs' voice. I called it a few times, and they like sang happy birthday, and then said, oh, there's my girl, or there she is. Yeah. And it's just like, I haven't seen marketing like that before. And it just shows you, I feel like that's why the movie, it was more of a highly anticipated.
They did a very good job of making it like, just like kind of a viral thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It just was like, I don't know. And they did a good job. I feel like the team behind it sat down and had a really clear, cohesive vision. And then they just really accomplished like what they needed there. So I think they did a really good job. Yeah. From that standpoint.
Yeah. From the marketing standpoint.
Yeah. So I was like, hats off to you guys.
Yeah, I know.
But then unfortunately I'm like, oh dang. But then you see the really movie. High hopes. I know, and then you see the movie and you're like, oh the marketing was like the most impressive part of this whole operation.
Was. Yeah, unfortunately. We need the marketing team to actually make the movie.
I know.
Maybe.
I'm like, who was on the team? Can they actually execute the whole project?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you have more of a go ahead.
It started out really good, the movie. And I think I haven't seen Silence of the Lambs, but you have, right? And I think it's very highly influenced by that,
Yeah.
as with like the FBI agent and like
You'd be correct in saying
Yeah.
that for sure. Yeah.
and so I think there was a little bit like some people were a little bit annoyed that it was maybe too influenced by the Silence of the Lambs.
I
but
didn't get
don't
that.
think I think it's just like also you just have like an FBI agent
Yeah, a
searching
female
for a serial
FBI
killer.
agent. So obviously it's the exact same story.
Yeah, like I think you're
okay.
allowed to do that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
yet again, it's like how many Friday the 13th ripoffs
Right.
do we have?
Yeah.
Like it's all. I don't even know if that's like the original. There's probably
Oh
like
yeah.
film people who can be like, well, it's actually all can be traced back to this like
Yeah.
scary like male serial killer who's killing teens.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
so.
I know. I think, but I don't know. That part of it really like intrigued me though, because it's very like true crimey, and I
Mhm.
liked that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I liked being able to see her like trying to figure it out and
Mhm.
stuff. But then, yeah, the actual long leg stuff, like him as a character, I didn't love.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and yeah, I think we're gonna talk about this, but like they show his face,
Yeah.
I think way too. Well, I don't know if it's too like I don't even remember when they show his face. I know that it was
You
a
could
long
basically
time.
see it.
Yeah, he does the thing
was
when he does, like, the
when he went to
cuckoo
the
thing.
paint
Yeah.
store, and I'm like, I wish they wouldn't have shown his face.
Yeah, that was, and he
there.
just okay. I keep telling people this, and I think I texted you this, but like in Arrested Development, when the grandpa is like hiding out from the law, he's like hiding in the attic. I sent you a picture of it, but like
did?
you need to Google. Oh my gosh, what's his name? I don't remember what the character's name is, but he is hiding out in the attic, and his hair gets really long because he like is. I don't know, not cutting it. And then he's just wearing like whatever clothes he can find in the attic, which ends up being like women's like blouses.
Is it like this? kind of
Yeah,
thing?
like, and
Yeah.
it reminds me, like, that's what Long Legs reminds me of. And he's just kind of like this kind of kooky old guy that wears women's clothing, but like not because he's like trying to be a woman, just because that's just kind of what he wears. Like, I don't know.
in
and-
Arrested Development.
In both, I think.
Oh, okay.
Like, it just wasn't scary to me because it just reminded me of that
You're
guy.
just like, I'm just thinking of Arrested
Yeah.
Development.
The whole time I was like, this is like, yeah, it just wasn't it. And I think I don't know, like I could see a world where that is really scary, but it also like, I just kind of thought he was funny.
Yeah.
And also it was Nicolas Cage, which
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So I didn't love that.
The Hail Satan bit, I was like,
yeah.
but it felt like campy. So it was
Yeah.
weird because I feel like his choices were very campy, and I feel like that was
Mhm.
purposeful. But
Yeah.
it was just like,
But
I was
we were
like, we
promised-
just needed to tweak it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I wanted them to tweak it just like they could have edited it, like changed it just slightly, and it
Mhm.
could have been for my taste, it would
Yeah.
have like perfectly fit. It
I
was
know.
like so close.
I feel bad like critiquing it because I feel like there's so many people who love it. And
well, that's
I feel
fine.
like,
I
yeah.
mean, like that's fine.
So
that
I'm
they
like,
whatever.
I don't know. I feel like they did something correct.
Yeah.
But I feel like there were a lot of things that were just a little bit off and not like
Mhm.
just missed the mark a little bit.
Right. For me, I was expecting, this is my fault for, I saw parts of the marketing,
Mhm.
but I didn't really read the synopsis. So it didn't,
Yeah.
like all you had to do is look on Wikipedia, and it
Yeah.
was like sentence number 2 that said something about the devil. And I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, so I thought it was going to
Yeah.
be more
Mhm.
like true crime, like
Yeah.
FBI investigation.
And that's what the trailers made it look like.
So I
yeah.
thought it was going to be more based in reality. So
Yeah.
when it became more
Mhm.
about devil like magic and like
Yeah.
that's where I was like,
It
again,
really-
I
it
was just disappointed
Yeah, it was such a letdown.
at that point. And also I was expecting more from like his look, and I'm
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
maybe they could have just like, because it would have been, you know, they're not going to satisfy anyone anyway, so they
Mhm.
might as well just maybe like not show him at all.
I know. I think like, yeah, from like nose down, I think it was like pretty scary.
Also,
But then you show the whole thing.
Yeah,
and
when
it's not.
the
Mhm.
this was when I almost broke the movie chair in half when I jumped when he's like,
I should have brought my long legs,
yeah,
or I
I'm
brought,
sorry,
yeah.
I didn't bring
Yeah.
my long legs today.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "Rah," and then he
Yeah,
like
and it
he
gets
like
really,
quickly crouches,
Yeah.
and then it's just like a blur, like
Yeah.
a white blur. And that freaked me out so much. But then when you saw him like in person, I'm just like, it's someone who has had like, he is wearing Lady Gaga like House Labs like whitest foundation. You know, the fillers have migrated. I was like,
it just doesn't.
Yeah, but I think it was like they were trying to be like, oh well, he's into like goth like alt rock, and so that's like the vibe of like someone who, I don't know, it was very like
I just think if he was, it would have been scarier, which like it's funny to say, but like it would have been scarier without the devil stuff, because that was just like I don't think, first of all, not into that as a movie trope, because too real, but I mean it doesn't, like, that's not what happens, you know? Like, it's just, like, using the devil as an excuse to have magic.
Yes.
And make it, like, scary magic.
Yeah.
But it's not, like, realistic.
It's just, like, it was just, like, a lazy solution.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, my God. I was just like, you guys, you had so much potential. And I'm like, the ball was dropped.
But it's just, if it was him somehow doing it on his own, like, it would have been so much more scary.
Right.
Because I know that that's not, like, I don't know. I just think the odds of the devil, like, somehow possessing someone through a doll with, like, the little orb thing, like, and then it, like, also coming through a serial killer. Like, all of that is just, like, doesn't make any sense.
No, I agree with you there. Like, I'm not going to be, obviously, I don't know what's correct, like, how... But in my
don't need
perspective,
to get too deep into
it felt like, I'm like, the devil doesn't need to spend time doing this kind of. I was just like, this is too small.
In an actual religious, like, real life thing, like, there are scarier things that the devil can do.
Yes.
And like, it's not like, he's
if
not
I wanted
wasting
to
his
watch
time
a
doing
spooky,
that.
Like demon, like that kind of esque, I'm like, I would have reached for some other genre of like a different movie. Like I wanted something else, and I was like, you know,
and I think as I don't know, as like a, well, one, as a Christian, it's kind of like I don't love it, but also it's like it's less scary as like, I don't know if it's just, it should be scary, I guess, but it's like, what's he gonna do to me? Like, I don't know. I have Jesus. It's fine.
Because Marina, humanity is so much scarier when they're on the incorrect path.
What's scary is like, like the strangers, like, and like, but
because it's,
not to get too deep, but it's like, you know where you're and like, you know where you're going, so it's like, okay, if you like, I don't know, but it's also like, I don't really feel like the devil is going to possess me because he can't. So
so I think exactly, and I think therein lies like the biggest like weakness in like the film for me, was just kind of how it ended up playing out, and we kind of talked about how it's like, oh well, that's too bad. So so I watched it. I've seen it twice. I made my brother and his girlfriend like watch it at home like the day before I came back. And but I was sure to like upfront tell them, I'm just letting you know, like it does end up being more like devil magic. So just like have that. Because I was like, for me, I was like, oh, false promise of like, I was like, Lee Harker is going to be like really cool and like solve this and like have her part. I don't know. But I will say the look of the movie, like, Micah's performance as Lee Harker, super great.
So good.
Like there was like suspense built into it. Like the sound design obviously had me almost breaking a movie chair. So that was impressive. And even, I don't know, like just having Nicolas Cage be willing to be transformed into like a creepy, monstrous,
a very interesting
individual
choice for him, but also cool.
Then I'm like, I feel like it, regardless of like the story kind of going in a direction that like wasn't my favorite, the kind of the visuals of the film and like kind of a lot of like the ways it was put together, the way it looked was very impressive to me.
So. I will say like the opening scene with like the
That was
little
the
girl.
strongest part of the
It was
movie.
so good.
Yeah.
And I wish the whole movie looked like that.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
also felt like that.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Right.
I liked that.
Yeah. It was just a bit too open-ended and went to, and I'm just, yeah, it just is
And
like,
it's also like they try to use the dark magic as like a cop out of
Yes.
how he was able to do it.
yes.
But then it also doesn't make sense because there is like
I know.
I don't know. Yeah, sorry again spoiling, but we told you at the beginning. But the mom goes into the house
In her blue slug bug,
Mhm.
and no one
and then she
sees
drives
it.
away full of blood.
Yeah.
Like completely covered
Yeah.
in blood. And she's just driving and they're like, "Oh, we don't know who did these murders." Like clearly it's this lady who's driving around.
I know.
covered
You
in
didn't
blood.
find like a strand of her long hair,
Yeah.
long gray hair floating
just
around
like-
in the house. I don't know.
I don't know. It's like they forgot that they said that.
Yeah,
and
they're
then
like, there's
by
no
the time-
evidence of anyone else being in the home.
By the time they
and
got
it's
to
like,
her,
yeah, there was. I'm
It's
sure there was.
it's ridiculous.
I'm sure she
Yeah.
like made a dent of like hauling in like a giant doll box, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, what the heck?
It makes no sense.
Yeah,
and it's the
I-
90s. It's not like that long ago.
I know. I'm like, they would have figured
Yeah.
it out. I'm like,
Yeah.
they had have like key witnesses. Someone would have been
Mhm.
like, oh, you know what? Actually, like,
Yeah.
weirdly enough, I saw like a blue slug bug like down the
Yeah.
street that I've never seen
Yeah.
before. Like if they did door to door interviews, like
Yeah.
asking around. But
And it's
whatever.
like, yeah.
Devil
I don't know.
magic.
It's, yeah.
Is it the like the convenient like God in a machine like Deus Ex
Mhm.
Machina or whatever?
Yeah.
It's just like the easy. I'm just like, no,
I
give
know.
me real like. You know, I want a
Yeah.
genius. I'm like, he's smart enough
Yeah.
to like make his own weird code situation.
Yeah.
And then, but also when she was decoding it, she's like, oh, if I put the numbers out in a row like this and then randomly draw a triangle.
yeah.
I was like, wait, how? I was like, okay, cool. Like, I
My
guess.
question with that is like, yeah, it's like, so she makes a triangle based on, they all have the birthday of the 14th,
Yeah.
but then they're all killed within a week of the 14th.
I don't, yeah.
And so then it like makes a triangle somehow.
If you
But-
put it out correctly.
Yeah, but the one that we see, they had been dead for like 2 months or something, like, or no, 2 weeks. I don't know,
Mm.
a long time. So they don't know the exact day that they died, but then somehow she's
don't know.
able to like plot it out,
I don't know.
which it doesn't feel.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I actually was going to say, I think I have seen another movie by
Mhm.
this director. It's called, but Kiernan Shipka is in it as well.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
the Dark something Cloak's daughter, Black Coat's daughter, I think.
Yes, I haven't seen that, but I do know what it is.
Okay, but I
yeah.
watched that and I didn't know it was kind of the same. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
because Emma Roberts is in it also.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was like,
Yeah.
I want to watch it. Yeah, the Black Coat's daughter.
Mhm.
Yeah, Oz Perkins
Yeah.
did that too. So
Yeah.
I remember watching that and I didn't think it was good. And it also
Yeah.
had weird devil
Mm.
magic in it.
Yeah.
And I will say, when my brother and I, when we were watching it,
Mhm.
he pointed out that throughout the times in the movie that I didn't notice when we were
Yeah.
watching it, and there's like the outline of like the goat, like the devil goat could be seen like
yeah.
multiple times throughout as kind of like an Easter egg, and I didn't
Yeah.
see it ever.
But
I was like, oh, that's kind of helpful. I was like, that was kind of a fun like
Yeah.
surprise, even though I didn't like that.
even though we don't
I
like
hated
it,
it, but I was
but
like, oh,
it's-
visually, I'm like,
yeah,
I like finding little hidden.
yeah,
It's kind of sets the tone, like from the beginning, because obviously, she like Lee Harker's character was
Mhm.
involved since the beginning, so it's
yeah.
like, oh, the devil
It's
was
showing you-
always the
yeah.
goat. What I
Mm.
want to call it something else. I'm like the long
No, it's
legs,
just like
the long legs,
this-
big bad.
I know.
was a part of the story from the very beginning.
Yeah.
but it was enjoyable. It was like
Mhm.
overall a letdown for me because of
Yeah.
how it played out.
I think it's just like, yeah, the feeling I had leaving
But
the
I thought
theater
it was
was
well
just not good.
done.
Like I just
yeah.
felt
yeah.
like,
I didn't. We were both like,
yeah, it's just kind of like you don't feel like it's all like cohesive.
Mhm.
So it's just kind of like, it's not like I felt, yeah, I didn't feel like gross or scared.
No,
It was
yeah.
just kind of like,
yeah.
I
It's
don't
like,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, it was
Okay. Any other
So-
thoughts before you want to like put?
before we rate it.
Yeah.
Or, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what I would rate it, to be honest.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, it's not very gory. It just
Yeah.
has, which again, gives it
It moves up higher.
Yeah,
on the
I
list,
like
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
From would I recommend it?
Yeah.
I would maybe like a 6 out of 10.
It's like, yeah, I think I really, really enjoyed the first half.
Yes.
Like, I wish
Yes.
the first half was what the whole movie was. But I think, I don't know, like going into it knowing that, like, I would kind of want to know, like, what your brother
Yeah.
would say, because it's like knowing the ending, does that make it better
I don't
to
know.
watch? And then
yeah,
you're like,
we're
not
biased
really-
because I was like, I went in kind of thinking one thing, and then when
Yeah.
it swapped, that's just the fault of like how I
know. Well, and I
operate.
think the marketing, like,
Yeah.
it just marketed it as a different kind of movie.
Yeah.
And we didn't get that. So if
Yeah.
you go in kind of blind or knowing
Yeah.
the reality of what it is,
Uh-huh.
would you like it more? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But I do remember the feedback because their feedback was like, oh, it was like really scary. And I was like, was it? But
Yeah.
their dog was like running upstairs and downstairs when we were watching the movie. So I was like, oh, but at first I was like, do they like it? Like,
yeah.
but yeah, it wasn't as enjoyable to be like, I wonder what they think. But no,
Mhm.
they thought it was good. I think it was just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like, okay. And then what was the other rank? Like scariness?
Yeah. I feel like for me,
Probably, like-
it started out pretty scary.
Yeah.
Like maybe a 7.
I would say a 7.
Yeah. But by the end,
Mhm.
I didn't leave the theater being scared.
Yeah.
Like, I have never really thought about Long Legs since then,
No.
other than just like as a movie
Yeah.
that I saw. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's not something that
I
has
agree.
like
I agree.
spooked me or
To
anything.
me, the scariest out of all of them is like the strangers. It
Mhm.
just, from what we've talked about. Like, it's
Yeah.
just a lot creepier.
Yeah.
But I had those jump scares got me.
I think it really
in
had the
the theater.
potential to be similar to The Strangers
Mhm.
in scariness, but it just didn't.
Mm-mm.
I saw this thing, I think it might have been a Letterboxd thing that was like, if you were in the last horror movie that you watched, would you survive? And then when I saw it, it was right after we had seen Long Legs. So then I commented no, because my birthday isn't on the 14th. Or I guess, yes, I would survive. I wouldn't die. But then I'm like, I kind of want to talk about, before we get into I Saw the TV Glow, because that's like a
Yeah.
different kind of movie.
Yeah.
Like, would we survive these movies? I think that'd be kind of
Oh.
funny. Long Legs, yes. Well, I mean, unless we're like in the family, in which case, no, because you can't do anything to stop it. I don't think.
Yeah.
Doesn't. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we would survive because there's no way, even in the 90s, my family would be like, the church would come up.
Oh yeah.
Surprise, you've won. They'd be like, absolutely not.
No.
Go away.
Also, I do not want that doll.
No.
No one wants that.
No,
That's
I liked
so scary.
dinosaurs anyways. No, thank you.
Yes. I already had my life-size Barbie.
So we would
I didn't need
survive.
that.
We would survive
Yeah.
Long Legs. Also,
Yeah.
the mom, anyone could take the mom.
I know.
She was like, yeah.
She was just like an old
That's
lady.
okay.
Like,
Honestly,
yeah.
the most injustice of the movie, I'm like,
Mhm.
that poor cop who was just trying to be a good friend. Like,
yeah.
no,
Mhm.
sorry, the other agent, like
Yeah.
driving Lee to the house. Like, you didn't, after what you saw, like, you didn't need to be
Mhm.
alone right now. And I was
Yeah.
like, come on.
Yeah.
We didn't need to kill that lady.
I thought.
She wasn't on the list.
Yeah, I thought that was gonna be. Yeah.
Okay. And then Lisa Frankenstein.
Lisa Frankenstein. I mean, I think we'd survive because we're nice people.
Yeah.
And Lisa Frankenstein only kills people that are mean.
Yeah.
Like, she has a reason for killing them. It's all very
Right.
personal.
yes.
And I don't think we would treat her in the way that
Right.
the people who died treated her.
Right. Fair.
So,
yeah.
but like, if we had, I don't know, I feel like the creature has like unnatural abilities. Like, he's
Mhm.
like extra strong.
Mhm.
So I don't think we could take him if
No.
he really wanted to,
No.
like, kill us. But
Also, to be completely honest, like, if Lisa Frankenstein wanted to kill me, I think I would be dead. Like, she's
Yeah.
like the type of person that
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, I'd be like, oh yeah, you're on like another level.
yeah,
Like, I would
somehow
just,
they're really good at it. Like,
Yeah. I think I'm just like, I'd be like, your will is stronger than my will.
Yeah,
Also, I probably would be like, I don't know. I'd be like one of the cheerleaders and just like in my own world
I
and like
know.
get
You'd have no idea,
caught in
like,
like the cross. I'd be like somehow like be collateral like
Damage,
damage
yeah.
like part of. I would probably just end up being like, oh, unfortunately, like it would just be like series of unfortunate events. Like, sorry, you were driving the car while Lisa was like trying to kill someone else, and then like you went in the water, and I'm like, oh well, darn.
That's so funny. You know what? That reminds me though. I mean, I guess. Well, no, they killed the stepmom, but they didn't kill that girl who drugged her, and that's kind of like the biggest flaw of the movie.
That. I forgot about that.
Me too. I didn't even think about that.
Which is that Barb from Stranger Things?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It looks like it. Oh, the TV has a thing I didn't need to watch.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. It was playing that like, oh my gosh, what's his name? The Salvador Dali, like experimental scary movie where they cut open someone's eye.
No.
Yeah.
Wait, like a lobotomy or like a?
No, no. They just like slice it open.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we have scary movies playing on in the background for the vibes.
I'm putting it back on Lisa Frankenstein.
I knew it was coming, and then I still watched it.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. Meanwhile, I was just, what was I talking about? I was like, Lisa Frankenstein.
I know. Sorry, Barb from Stranger Things.
Oh yeah.
Okay. In A Violent Nature, I think he also has. Like, well, okay. Again, it's like we wouldn't get ourselves in this situation.
No, I wouldn't put myself in that situation.
But if we did, if our friends were stupid, like if we were with those boys who did it, like he is somehow also has like crazy undead supernatural like strength.
I think I would probably just be one of the girl. I'd probably be swimming in the water.
Yeah. And
I feel like I would have the buddy system. I would be smart about it.
But I think we would still die.
I would die.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I wouldn't make it out, but hopefully I could just at least be the girl who drowned.
But you know what? Like, okay, the first guy, Aaron, dies, and then they're like, well, first of all, they don't care that he like doesn't come back. And then in the morning they do care a little bit, and they're like, oh, maybe we should put in a like missing persons report or whatever. And then they're like arguing about whether or not they should do that. I would be like, I'm leaving and I'm doing that. And I'm not like, like I would have done that the night before. But if I had waited until the next morning, I would have left. So there's, I think,
but
I don't know.
Yeah, but maybe it would just be the thing where it's like, you didn't take the necklace, but someone you were with did. Yeah. And so you're just, again,
so he's going to still, like, find you.
So I feel like I still would have somehow, not that I think I would be in a group of people to be like, yeah, let's take this creepy, like, floating necklace. But I don't know, maybe one of my friends would be like, ooh, vintage.
I know. Like, and just, like, also, like, sometimes it's cool to be like, ooh, like, someone died here.
Yeah,
like,
or honestly.
Not that I'm saying it's cool, but for other people.
Yeah, well, I did go to, like, I've had to visit like the Tom Riddle inspired like grave in like Scotland. There's
I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, well Kate. I went with Kate. I made Kate go with me. And I'm like, well, that was actually like, that's not very nice because that was someone else's grave. And you're just like, oh, let's go look because it's cool. But I don't know. I'm not undead, whatever. So, but I do think, here's what I think would play out. This was like our friend group. I feel like what would happen would be like, oh, we're just doing like a cool little cabin retreat. Yeah. And then we see a very pristine, like hanging on a branch. Yeah. Like, oh, this is misplaced. Like, we should probably go turn this in.
Yeah,
like,
that's
to Lost
true.
and Found. Be like, this is a very like pure gold necklace. Like, hey, we found this like in the woods. Like, I think someone lost it, or like maybe. And then we would die because like that.
I know, because we're trying to be nice.
I know. That's what I think would happen.
That's so true.
Okay.
That's funny.
The strangers, would we survive
the strangers? I don't think so. Other than the things that they didn't do was. Well, okay, in the new Strangers, they didn't have a car, so they couldn't have left. In the old Strangers, I would have just left. Yeah. Like the second that someone came to knock on the door. First of all, I wouldn't answer the door, but whatever. Because it was 4 a.m. in the original one.
Right.
And then she uses her phone to call the fiance/boyfriend.
Right.
Instead of calling the police.
Right.
What you do is you call the police. And that's like...
Here's what I think. I think both you and I would survive this scenario because we're dealing with, we've talked about this. Like, I get that you're being hunted and you have an unfair advantage because it's the element of surprise. Yeah. And you're in. But I think, like, as soon as something weird would have happened, it's
we're
like.
Out of there.
You would have like handled the situation. And I get that it's unfair to be like, well, you don't know like your trauma responses and this specific
that's very true.
set of series of events. But we did make a point where it's like, listen, if you like, you could flip a coin and be like, could I out marathon run this person? If I'm like jogging on the street, could I out pace them? And I'm like, honestly, maybe. Like, you know, you just have to be, it's like the people in this, and the strangers, they're normal.
Yeah.
Also, we mentioned like they can't see crap through that mask that they're wearing. Even the scarecrow, his has actual eye holes, but it looks like one of the doll mask has like the black screen, like the mesh or something. It looks like, I'm like, you're cutting off your peripheral vision. It's at night. They don't have guns.
Yeah, they don't have guns. It's crazy.
So when the fact that you find a gun and then somehow still lose.
I know. It's like,
listen.
Well, it's the fatal mistake in the original was after he shot the friend.
Yep.
Then they left. That was like, they were in the perfect place. They had the gun. They just needed to hide out there.
Right.
And then in the new one, he had the, I think pinup girl? I don't know. They look the same in the new one. But he had one of them.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it was pinup girl.
At gunpoint asking, he's like, where is Maya?
Yeah. Like, just shoot her. I don't know. It's like, you're outmatched or you're outnumbered. So get rid of one of them. And then at least it's like even.
Right.
And then you have a gun. You should be able to save yourself. And that was kind of insane.
We also talked about, I remember mentioning this, like the scarecrow is the one that scares me the most.
Yeah.
So that's why they're original strangers, like the appearance of, because it's just, you're physically outmatched for me. And I'm like, it's kind of the flaw of me being like, okay, I would be like, really, I feel like I could get worked up and be like, you're a tiny little, like, you want to girl on girl, like, you want to go?
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's see who went.
The
like,
girls
I'm actually
are like
so mad.
pretty small.
Yeah,
like,
I know. Especially, I think, pinup girl, both of the masked women in the 2024 version are small. The Dollface, I think, in the 2008 version was like pretty tall still. But
tall but very skinny and like kind of seemed young.
Yeah, was like, I think, a model actor, like does other like work. But I'm kind of like, I get that you're hunting me, but like, I don't know, growing up, I just remember I was in a situation where I was home alone and like my weird neighborhood girls that like we all had to, and the boys like watching spooky movies together. They thought it was funny to, I don't know, like bang on I think they were banging on the windows and like trying to freak me out, and I was home alone. And so I just remember like feeling so good about this. But what I did was I removed their visibility of me by turning off all the lights in the house. Yeah. So it was lighter outside so I could see where they were. Yeah. And I remember one of my neighbors had like crouched in the back window and her face was like super close and I could see her. Yeah. So I went and put my face like, and I scared
up against hers. Oh
like,
my gosh.
So she got freaked out. Yeah. And so I'm like, I feel like you kind of could do something. You know what I mean? I'm like, you have really, home turf advantage like you're in the house. But again, they had already been in the house and they had ways in the house. Yeah. Like, whatever. So,
yeah. I think it's also like viewing yourself as a victim.
Yes.
Versus like they were like, oh, I'm like, these people are going to kill me. And I think that hurt their.
Yes.
Like any advantage that they did have. I think if you think of yourself as like, this is just a person.
Right.
And I can hurt them and they can hurt me. You know, like, I think you just need to view yourself as stronger.
Right.
And then I think you could do it a little bit.
So if you have,
There's our little tips for home invasions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then now on to I Saw the TV Glow, because I think it's not, I don't know.
It's its own thing.
It is. And I think it's included in Slasher Summer just because it's like, I think that's what people like to think of it as, but it's really not a scary movie.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. It's a weird one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forgot to write down who the director is. Okay. I remember it's Jane something.
Oh, okay. Director Jane Schoenbrunn. Schönbrunn?
Schoenberg?
Schönbrunn. Do you see?
Oh.
In the blue.
Schoenbrunn?
Schönbrunn? Yeah. American filmmaker. Let's see if they've done. I saw the TV Glow.
Yeah, I feel like this is their first.
They're only
big
37.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will say I had some discussions about this with my coworker because I remember watching this and I had higher expectations going in because I remember, again, I think I saw this push towards me by my TikTok algorithm, thinking like, what an interesting, I was like, I didn't look too much into it, but it was just kind of like, I saw the main older actor for the Owen character. Yeah. And I'm
Justice Smith is
I don't know. But I remember being like, I've seen that person. Yeah, Justice Smith. I've seen Justice in like something else and I like them as an actor. So I was like, okay, I'm like, this is interesting. I'm like, I'll put a pin in that in my brain and be like, okay, I'd love to like see this because it looks like it's doing something different. Yeah. So I was like, that's so interesting. But as soon as I started watching it, I'm like, this is different than what I thought. So I didn't really like the tone of the movie. I will say, I was like, it starts off as like, we see young Owen. Yeah. So cute.
So cute.
The
I know.
little kid.
And I love when he's talking to, is it Maddie? Okay.
Maddie.
Yeah. And they're like when they're voting. Yes. They're like in the cafeteria. Yes. And then he's like, I'm in 7th grade. And she's like, you're just a baby. Like,
and then Owen is like, okay. And then he's like, whatever. And Maddie's just like a cool, like very, like just doing their own thing. Like
too cool for school.
Too cool for school. Sorry, I can't. Sometimes so cool for, you keep that in because that's just, sometimes I have issues saying R. Like, so rural is like very challenging
that's the
for
worst
me.
Word in existence.
But it's just like, I just remember we've talked about, I didn't really get like what was trying, I didn't really get like, because I'm dumb and I was just like, I couldn't really get what was trying to happen. So I remember my coworker Zhang being like, what do you think happened? And I was like, oh gosh, the pressure is on. And I'm like, I don't know. I honestly haven't thought about it yet because I was just trying to, but in doing like, just kind of thinking about it. So Zhang kind of put into my mind about how, as a base form, I'm like, to me, I was like, okay, so you have what I did feel like I understood about the beginning was like, okay, you have Owen, who like doesn't really belong, like, and then there's like this sense of belonging that this show, like the Pink Opaque, like provides, and so I feel like Maddie is older, so Owen's like, okay, like I see like a potential friend or like maybe someone who like Owen is like appreciating like this show. And so they find like escapism and like belonging in like this Pink Opaque, which is like this 90s show. I will say like, even though I've said I'm very nostalgic, there's something about like that specific, it's like just old enough that I don't like it. Yeah. Where it's like, it's just, it's not like, it's like it's like the Goosebumps. Like I wouldn't enjoy Goosebumps now. And like I've told you, we watched like Halloween Town and I don't like the aesthetic of it. Like it kind of bugs me. Yeah, that's fair. It's like, you know, when you have your old math books and everyone's dressed in like a specific way. Yeah. And I'm just like,
third time we've talked about math.
I know.
What is happening?
Horror and math. Like you can figure it out. Things. What's the significance? Yeah. But I don't like aesthetically, that's not like I like Lisa Frankenstein aesthetic versus this. Yeah. I think it's because it's too real. So
I really did like the aesthetic of this, but I also think I liked the colors. Yes. Like it was a very beautiful film. But I was listening, I can't remember what podcast it was, but it was a podcast about, I only listened to like a little bit of it. And they were talking about like just their initial thoughts of like, I saw the TV Glow. And it was two guys who were probably like, I think they're like in their 30s. So they were like, what, like teenagers in the 90s or, because I think they're like late 30s. And So yeah, so it was like the way that they related to it, I think was a lot more real, and they were like, they could, I don't know, like it was like, oh, this is what I experienced in the 90s versus us being like a little bit after that.
Yeah. I wasn't
like
fully there.
Yeah. So I think there were a lot of references that I missed.
Yes.
And then they brought up, but like, yeah, I just didn't know because I wasn't.
Right. For me, it's like this would have hit. I feel like this would have aligned more if it was like more 2000s, like silly bands. You have like the weird hip clips with like Britney Spears, you know, different, like sort of like a completely different, like Scholastic Book Fair, like things like that.
Yeah.
But
it's also like the director is probably similar age.
Yeah, 37.
So,
the director's 37. So around that time. But I will say their performances, they did a good job.
Oh, yeah.
But the kind of like the next level, when you get more into like, it kind of felt like, are we living a real life?
Yeah.
Like, and then it showed Owen wearing a dress and then them kind of like implying that they're the characters from the Pinko Pink. So it's like, okay, Maddie resonated with Tara a lot. I think that was Tara, the character.
I think so, yeah.
Right? And then it's like Owen is kind of Isabel. And so this is where it took like Zhang kind of like, I was sort of like, okay, is this implying like, would this be more like trans representation? And so Zhang was the person who like outright was like, no, I think it's like more the pink opaque is more the belongingness that like maybe the queer community like provides. And so when they went to the bar and like Phoebe Bridgers was playing and it was so like
funny.
I know,
like I
was
loved
like,
it, but I also was like, are we gonna watch this entire like performance, you know? Like I don't know.
I know. So that was the point where I'm like, I remember sitting and watching this movie myself and I'm like, I can sense that there's a shift and there's a point being made, but I'm not understanding it. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I see something is happening, but I'm not getting it. So again, it was like the meaning was lost on me, but I was like discerning that I'm like, okay, wait. But I was just taking it literally like that. Maddie, they were Tara and like the world that they were experiencing, like they were both being targeted and they were buried by Mr. Melancholy. And so when Isabel's being like, was her like Isabel's heart was taken out and then being buried alive, that's like why Owen is basically like stifled and buried by life.
Yeah.
But I will say, regardless of like what the actual, again, this was just me being like, I'm just gonna watch this for whatever.
Yeah, I like wasn't ready for how deep it was.
No, it was so deep. And then at the very end, I was talking to Zhang like how, to me, that was like the most disturbing and heartbreaking scene when they have that like birthday party.
Yeah,
and Owen is like calling out for help, screaming
for like his
being
mom.
like, I can't. Yeah, I forget what Owen was saying, but like, I can't breathe. Like, I'm dying. Yeah. And then that was the part where I was like, I was just so taken aback. I was like, this is heartbreaking. Like, I don't know what's happening, but you have this person who is not okay. And then like the dad at one point, like is, like kind of torturing Owen, like in the shower, right? He's like putting Owen's head in like steaming, almost boiling hot water. But is it to
like pull him out of his
No, I feel like the dad, well, I don't know. I was thinking
that
the dad
was right
was
after
like,
he stuck his head in the TV. And then he like pulls him out, right?
But I think, I don't remember, but I think it was like, I think the dad was like not a good person.
The dad was definitely not a good person.
So I think it was like, I think the pink opaque was like a good thing.
Yeah.
And so I think when Owen was trying to like maybe go on the TV, the dad was trying to keep him or like Owen like in reality and not to like
if that is reality.
So it's just kind of like Owen as a character, you're kind of following this individual who's like unable to be free or like accept, like they're trying to get somewhere and they're just not comfortable and like who they are or like where they're trying to go. And so when you see at the end, like they're just like not well and not okay, it's just very uncomfortable. But then I also resonated with like Maddie being like, okay, I'm ready to leave. And then
Yeah.
Owen's like crying like to the friend's mom being like, you need to like tell my mom so I can't.
Yeah.
Like you
So
need
she
to tell my
grounds
mom that
me
I've been
so that
lying.
I can't.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I
Yeah.
completely understand what that's like. Cause it's like you want to be ready for something, but you're not
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah.
And so those are kind of the thoughts I had. But yeah, a lot was happening and a lot of it was lost on me. And that's just because I'm dumb. So
Yeah, I think, okay, I don't think I saw I don't think I saw any trailer. I think I
Yeah.
just saw like some pictures
Mhm.
on Instagram and I
Mhm.
thought like I kind of wanted to see it based on that. But I
Mhm.
also like, I don't know. I think a lot of people were just talking about like how creepy it was. So then I was like, well, I don't think I want to watch. I don't know. Like I
Yeah.
wasn't sure what the vibe was going to be. But then I looked up just like the synopsis or like, I don't know, the quick little synopsis, you know, and it sounded from like, I don't know what the synopsis was versus what it actually was. Like, I don't feel like it was the same thing because it seemed like I think we really missed out on like their friendship. And it was just kind of like they bond over the Pink Opaque. They watch it one time when he's in 7th grade and she's a freshman. And then she starts recording on VHSs like
yes.
for him and then
Uh-huh.
he watches it separately from her. And so it's like they're kind of like bonding, but they don't ever talk to each other. And I think he says like I've talked to her like 4 times since then or something.
Yeah.
And it's like 5 years later
Yeah.
or something crazy. So it's like he like keeps, well, it's probably not that long, but yeah, it's just like their friendship. The way that it was portrayed in the synopsis was like he sneaks out and like watches it all the time with her.
Yeah.
But then that's not what happens. It happens one time and then he just watches it by himself and then he does it like one more time,
Right.
I think. And it's just like, I don't know. I just feel like they needed more of a friendship
That's totally
for it to like
fair.
Yeah.
And well, I guess it kind of made sense where it's like Tara and Isabel met at sleepaway camp and then never
Yeah.
interacted again, but they have this unspoken bond. Yeah, so Tara and Isabel have they meet at sleepaway camp and then
Yeah, they're like connected.
Never see each other again.
Through the Pink Opaque or
Yeah.
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
I agree because it's like,
Mhm.
but also I feel like, yeah, they didn't have like this, we're best friends.
I know.
It was just that it's like you meet someone like once and they're
Mhm.
kind of like nice to you, but then they're like, well, do you just like want to run away together? And it's like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's so weird. I just feel like, I don't know. Because then when he finds Maddie, like when she comes to the grocery store after she runs away, and he's like so happy that she's there, which like is
Yeah.
fair because, you know, they thought maybe she died or something.
Mhm.
But I feel like he didn't probably think she died because he knew she was going to run away.
Right.
And then he's like so happy to see her, but it's kind of like, but why? Because are you really friends?
Mm-hmm.
I just think, I don't know. I really wanted like more of a relationship, even though I know that it's probably supposed to mirror the Pink Opaque relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. And then I don't know. It spanned so many years and it was just like so fast, which also kind of, I'm like, I get it kind of for the storyline, but it also was like, I think that took away from their relationship also.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what my other ideas or thoughts on it were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, from like the gender, like trans kind of viewpoint, I feel like there are a lot of people who really like it for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think it didn't do as good of a job as I wanted it to. Or like it didn't, I don't know. Like I feel like people are scared to like critique it almost because of that. But I think it could have been better.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, I don't know. I think it was just a little too abstract.
Yes.
And
Well, for me, I didn't even like connect. I was like, maybe they're implying that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm just sitting there being like, wah.
yeah,
So I don't know.
feel like, I think what happened is, I think that the Pink Opaque is like real life. And then what is quote unquote real life with Owen and Maddie
Yeah.
is like this made up thing that like Mr. Melancholy through the lunar juice like
Oh yeah.
got them to like believe that like they think it's real, but actually they're like the real reality is like the two girls in the pink opaque.
Yeah.
And yeah, because also at the end after that birthday party thing when he goes into the bathroom, lots of things happen in that scene.
Opens
But
chest.
he throws up like or like coughs up dirt, which like, and then he has asthma, which like kind of adds to like just the idea that I think he like can't breathe because he's buried, and then he like coughs up the dirt, which obviously is implying that he's buried, and then he opens up his chest and there's TV static inside, which I don't fully understand that, but
yeah, I didn't. Yeah, the only other thing that Zhang mentioned, which I remember at the beginning, I'm like, I feel like this is significant, was, which I did Google, it was that when they're in the gym with the big parachute
oh my gosh,
flag,
that was such a beautiful scene.
it was
too.
so beautiful, but also it was trans flag colors.
Oh,
So which I was like,
I thought it was just like to be pretty.
Yeah,
So it's
I know,
like-
because I was like, wait,
Yeah.
aren't they normally just like primary color
Yeah.
or like more rainbow colors?
Yeah.
So that was part of it. But again, it's like, it's important, and obviously people who are gonna know that are gonna know that. So
Yeah,
it's like,
that's
it's
true,
not
that's true.
for me to be, well, whatever. But I'm
Yeah.
just like, I was just like, oh, look at it. And then I was just like lost in the past of like, I wonder how long were people able to sit under that before it like fell down? I was just like thinking about
also the fact that he's just like walking around in it, and I'm like,
I was
would
also
you not
just
be
like,
annoyed?
I was like, oh, it is so cute.
He is.
Yeah, I know. I thought someone
Yeah.
was gonna be like, well, it's my turn to walk around
I
underneath
know.
the parachute.
I wanna
like,
walk around under it.
Yeah, but that was something else that I was like, oh
That's
yeah,
true. That's such a good.
But I googled
point.
it because when Maddie was asking Owen, like, well, do you like boys? Like,
Oh,
do you
yes.
like, and then Owen's like, I'm just kind of like I don't, whatever. So
I
I was
like
like,
TV.
okay. I was like, okay. I was like, wait, so Owen, like, just doesn't like anyone. So maybe Owen's ace, but that was
Yeah.
different colors. So I Googled,
Yeah.
like, different colors. So I was like, okay. But I had it
I think
incorrect.
Owen is just like he has other things to work through
Yeah,
first. You know, like
exactly.
he just feels
Which I
very
resonated
empty,
with.
and I think that's fair.
Yeah, but so I really resonated with Owen just being like, I'm just like trying to I'm just trying to get through the day and like
Yeah.
not be like, you know, they're just like, they're,
yeah, like he needs his basic needs met,
I
and he
know.
doesn't have that.
I know.
And so he can't think about like
Yeah.
loving people
Yeah,
yet.
I know.
I think. Yeah.
And I'm like, I resonated with that. And then I also resonated with like little Owen trying to find some sort of like belonging in like the show and be like, is it okay if I come inside? Like,
yeah,
like
that was
carrying
such
the
a
sleeping
cute
bag.
scene.
yeah, and then
Oh.
Maddie and like Maddie's friend are just
Yeah.
like not even acknowledging
Yeah, they're just like,
young
okay,
Owen. I'm
you're
like,
here.
I've been in that situation before when it's just like, is it cool if I like come in and like I'm just gonna like
Yeah.
sleep down here? You know, and so Owen just like holding on to that thread of like whether it's the pink opaque, whether it's like the relationship with Maddie, like for dear life.
Yeah.
I really resonated with that. And as someone, obviously, we're in a movie podcast
Yeah.
because we like
Love
film,
it.
we like movies, we like stories. So I've always found like an escapism, like
Yeah.
belonging in like that way.
Yeah, which
You
I
know?
think is like the other thing that this movie is about is like, yeah, like how we escape into movies or TV shows or whatever, which is I don't know. Yeah, an interesting thing to think about because I mean, same. But even probably especially more with like actual TV rather than streaming and like having to, like you feel so much more belonging, I think, over watching something at the same time as everyone else.
Right.
And like, yeah, it's such an interesting, like, it's good. I think there's a lot of good that comes from it, but then there's also obviously the negatives of like you're finding your identity or like happiness in TV, which isn't what should be happening.
Right.
But at the
And
same
then
time,
you have the comparison of like the dad was kind of in the TV room, like mindlessly watching TV,
Yeah.
but it was like in a negative way. I don't know. It kind of, I was getting a sense of like, I don't know. It wasn't like always that TV was a good thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, yeah. And I think it's like also the lines are blurred between reality and TV, which obviously in like an extreme way in this. But I think like there were so many times in film school when like I feel like I would watch just such good movies that, and then I would come out of it and I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm like in the movie kind of, or like you're in like a weird headspace of like, now you have to go back to regular life. But it's like, you kind of felt like that was real life for a little bit because it was like so good.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just, I don't know, for people who like read so much or something, it's just like you're barely in reality.
Yeah, I know.
Or people who game a lot, it's just like you're not even in your present. Like you're like 75% of your life is like not fully like in your body really. So it's just
that's crazy.
So it's hard to come down to earth and be like, oh, I have to pay taxes now.
Yeah, I know.
But I was in a fantasy realm, like just
where
being an elf.
Taxes don't exist.
Yeah.
I think, there's a lot of good, and like I think in like moderation, you know, but it's obviously like, there can be, you don't want to disassociate from your life all the time.
But overall, I could definitely like, it stood out for me as like a separate piece of media that wasn't in like, oh, spooky, scary horror.
I do think like what was the scariest part of it was like the sound design. And I kind of hated that. Like I kept turning it down because I was like, please stop making these noises. Like, I don't know. And I think, I don't know. Like it goes back to that. Like, I don't think sound design should be what is scary about a movie. Like, I don't know.
For me, it wasn't like scary. It was just like, the word that like it was just like devastating and sad just for the specific like Owen not being able, like in the scene where Owen is like screaming and like not well. I'm just like I just like really felt that, and that was like scary that I'm like, that person is like, they can't help themselves.
Like it was too much. It was like a little too real sometimes.
Yeah, it was like, too real. So that like made me very like sad. So that was a very like gripping scene, and that was like very like jarring and like horrifying in the sense that like there is someone who's not okay and like very lost and needs help and like isn't receiving like they like any support or like is very lost.
I know.
So
sad.
That was like not fun.
No. You know?
Okay.
Yeah. This one was like the stuff that's like scary or like affected me the most was just the real life stuff, which is like just not what I wanted.
It's too real. Yeah. It's too real. Yeah.
And then it's like so pretty that it was like, I don't know, half the time I enjoyed watching it, and then the other half of the time I was kind of like, what is happening? And also, why am I sad?
Yes.
Like, I don't know. The other thing that I feel like is worth mentioning is all the voiceover and like breaking the fourth wall that Owen does. Like, at first I hated it.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And I thought it was super weird. And then I was like, well, maybe it's like kind of supposed to be off-putting, which is fair.
Yeah.
But then it was like, I think Maddie said like, do you ever feel like you're like narrating your life? And then I was like, oh, that's why it's happening. So it's just kind of adding to like, he's in real, quote unquote, real life. But then he's like, it's kind of like Ferris Bueller kind of like talking to the camera. Like, you're very obviously like a character, but it's like supposed to be real life. So I don't know. I almost like it more now that I just thought about that.
I completely forgot about that. And that was very present in the movie. So I'm like, whoopsies.
Yeah.
You're so right.
I think it felt at the beginning like it relied way too much on the narration. So I do think there's parts that like where it could have relied less on it. And I don't think I want them to take it out because I do think it's like a nice addition.
Yeah.
And like it was off-putting in a good way, I think. And then it adds to like what Maddie said. And then I really liked where it would start off as like a narration and then it would like pan to him like talking or something. I feel like that was done well, but I think there was just too much, like they could have shown us more and not relied on him like directly telling us things because it kind of was like I'm just listening to him narrate his life, and it's like less of a movie than
Right.
I don't know.
Also, if you're gonna narrate, can you like just explain everything to me, please? Because I was very lost.
Yeah. Also, like I didn't love Justice Smith's voice in this movie.
Okay.
And I don't know. I feel bad because it's like, it's not his real voice because he does other voices. But then it's like, this is his voice in a lot of movies that I feel, I don't know. There's just, and maybe it's supposed to just kind of make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because it made me feel uncomfortable.
No, I agree. And I kind of forgot about it because I think I was,
It's like he's like trying to do a really deep voice, but his voice is not naturally that deep. And it was just, I don't know. Yeah.
I felt the same way. I actually didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
So it just,
but his performance was really good.
Yes.
I just didn't like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it just, there are things that like distracted me for me as a movie watcher.
Yeah.
In a negative way that I like didn't
so
really like what was happening. But again, that's fine. Like it can, I'm not mad that it is how it is. I'm like, yes, go exist. It's just, that's not really my cup of tea.
Yeah. I know.
But same with Longlegs. Like I didn't like how that played out either. That's just like how I would prefer a story, like things to be told. But like it was definitely, it had vision, like it was like, I've never seen something like that. So
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, what would you rate it on how much you would recommend it? I know, I feel like I really struggle with this also cuz
I don't know. I struggle with it because it's like I feel like I would only recommend it to people who I think are more into like stranger like stranger film, like not like more like normally well received like movies, just things that are a bit like different. Like
very, you definitely need to think a lot, which I think both of us were not ready to do.
Yeah, I would recommend it to people who are like not like Twilight lover, like, you know, people who are like me.
It's not an easy like fun film.
Yeah, it's
which
not,
I think it kind of depicts itself as a little bit. Like I thought it was gonna be just
it's like, not as easily digestible.
Yeah.
It's not gonna spoon feed like the meaning of life to you. Yeah. So I don't know. So I would only recommend it to people who are more into that like type of movie. So I can't like put on a scale.
I know. I think, I'm not like necessarily, like I'm not mad I watched it, but I don't know if I would watch it again. I don't know.
I don't feel the need to watch it again. That's just like me, though.
Yeah. It's also not, like, it's not super scary at all. Like, and then it's not, obviously, it's, like, not gory or anything.
It's, like, the idea of, like, reality and, like, you not have, it's just, like. Yeah.
It's very, like, Black Mirror, kind of, like, that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
Like, just weird, like, alternate reality, like, what's real and like people are messing with your mind.
Which I think like I don't like to think about like reality and like not enjoying like my life. So it's not like that's not fun for me because I like to escape and like root for other people. And so when I'm like, it's just too real for me. So it wasn't enjoyable.
Yeah, that's very fair.
So yeah, I can't. Yeah. I don't know.
It's kind of if you feel like thinking a lot. And it's not a bad movie. It's just like not a fun movie. So if you want to really evaluate your life, I guess.
Yeah, I don't want to put it on the same scale that we've been putting like other people. I feel like it's a
completely different thing.
It's its own little unicorn
I do
piece of
feel
art.
like it's worth like I think it's going to be like significant in like film history kind of, you know, like I think it's very progressive and like it's a very interesting storyline that isn't done very often and it's very well filmed. So like I think there's a lot of like if you're into films, and which you probably are because you're listening, and like maybe are like a film student or something, I feel like it's worth watching for like just the art of it. But yeah, I don't know if like the casual moviegoer
Watch it for the ice cream monster.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Which, speaking of, I love when he's like, is the ice cream monster in every episode? And then she's like, no. Like, why? Why would
You
it be an
idiot!
Which it's like, in the moment, I was like, that's so mean. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't know. But then also now thinking about it, I'm like, well, yeah, obviously the monster,
Obviously, the ice cream monster is not in every
how
episode.
could that be like?
They defeat a monster. They have to
The
defeat
monster
a
of
different
the
monster
week.
every time.
But it's like, yeah, you can't support an entire show off of the ice cream
Obviously
monster.
not.
Yeah.
So,
It's like-
so are like the vampire people or the cougar ladies like in every Scooby Doo? Obviously
Obviously
not.
not.
They have to unmask different like monsters every different episode. Duh.
obviously. Yeah. It's like, have you never seen Scooby-Doo before?
Yeah,
Maybe Scooby-Doo doesn't exist in that universe, though.
yeah. It was
Yeah.
very like the goosebumps of that.
Yeah.
Like the Pinko Pig.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah, but did I want like a ghost magic on the back of my neck? Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
for sure.
Yeah. Coolest, like, little...
But
Thing
I
that
could have, if
connects
I
them.
was watching the Pinko Pig and saw like Isabel, and I
Mhm.
really would have wanted to be them.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
For sure.
I would watch that show.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of wish that that show existed more than I
Same.
wish that this movie existed, which sounds so mean. But, like, I want to watch that more than I want to watch this movie.
Yeah.
Even though, like I said, I do think the art of this movie is great. I just, I don't know if I want
Please,
to rewatch
can the
it.
creators of this get together and make the Pinko
Yeah.
Pig real? Because I would
Yeah,
watch
that
it.
would be a great, like, little spin-off
Mhm.
Netflix movie or TV show or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're allowed to also be money grabbers and create
Because
Strangers.
it would be fun.
The Strangers Chapter 1.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. Well, that's all of our movies
That's-
that we
we've-
watched this summer, I
Mhm.
guess. The 2024 slasher.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any parting thoughts on these movies?
No.
No, that's fair. We went very in depth.
Yeah, sorry, I talked too much.
I know. Thanks for sticking with us for however long this ends up being, but
yeah.
it's been a long time. But I hope you enjoyed it
yeah.
because
I'm
I
happy
don't know.
these movies exist. Parting
Yeah.
thoughts, like, I don't know. I'm excited to see, like, where people kind of take either reimagining old movies
Yeah.
or creating, like, different, like, I feel like there were a lot of, like, different types of movies I watched
Mhm.
and just, like, these several that we've listed that
Yeah.
are kind of
they're very like
got-
different. in
got
their-
some new things going on.
Oh
So-
yeah, for sure.
So I'm excited to see like what else is on the horizon.
Do you have any that you like are looking forward to? I don't remember.
I'm looking forward
like,
to Cuckoo.
Oh yeah, we were
We
gonna
wanted to
watch that, and
that
then it's
one.
out of theaters, and then we
know.
didn't watch it. But yeah,
I've been
I
wanting.
do wanna watch that,
Yeah, I
yeah.
wanted to look at like. I wanted to watch Maxine too, but I'm just
Mhm.
like I'm kind of waiting until I feel like it's the right time
yeah.
for me to like
I mean,
watch.
we're getting into
Yeah.
fall, so it's
We're
good.
getting into fall, but weirdly, I'll still be like I'll want to watch a Christmas movie,
Oh yeah,
but like in not Christmas.
you can watch
time.
whatever you want, whenever
know?
you want. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll just see if I feel in the mood.
I am
to watch
excited
anything.
about. I think that it's another neon movie. The one it's like Russian. It's about like a Russian prostitute, and then they get married. That we saw the ad for.
Yeah.
It was so
for
we were
Long
there
Legs.
for like some of the
Yeah.
ads. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we
think
did. I was
when I first saw that
hyperbolic,
ad or
yeah.
trailer, I was kind of like, I don't know, like that feels kind of weird. But the more I think about it, I'm like, I kind of want to watch
I want to
it.
watch that movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And Ethan and I are learning Russian
Um,
because of Kyrgyzstan. So
are
I'm
you
like
like
kind of like want to.
actively learning?
Yeah, we have our little Duolingo. I don't look at my Duolingo streak
Okay.
right now. It's really sad, but
okay.
we were doing really good.
Is there any like movie or horror related Russian you can provide for the podcast
Ooh.
listeners out there right now? This is a
No.
non-judgmental space.
I know Koshka is cat, so that
Okay.
that relates to
Love.
Quiet Place Day 1 and Alien.
Yep.
So, you know,
Is there a cat in the new Alien movie?
not in the new one, but the original one.
Oh.
It's
I
a really
haven't
cute
even
little
seen
orange
that,
cat.
So
She has to like go back to save him. It's great. But I don't think I know any other words that could be even slightly
Koshka?
Koshka.
Okay. Love. That's
Yeah.
all we need.
Yeah. I can't tell you anything else
That's
that
okay.
has to do with a scary movie.
Okay. Well, thanks for sticking with us if you've made it this far.
Really? Thank you so much.
Good luck, Ethan.
I know. Sorry. Well, happy Friday the 13th. Happy start to fall.
Yeah.
It's so good. So excited. All right. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for having me, Marina.
Of course. Thanks for doing your podcast debut, ?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Question mark.
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean?
Oh,
No, that was like
Yeah, it is.
yeah, it is your podcast
it
debut.
is my podcast
Yeah,
debut.
perfect.
Ever. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. You did great. I don't remember how Ethan normally ends this, so I'm just going to say thank you. Bye.
Bye.